Welcome back, everyone, to the NASCC playoffs. It's Goran Inbound still on the desk as we jump towards set 2. One that, again, I think we're both really excited for. So we're already off to a wild day with the Valkyries, the #1 seed, eliminated completely from the playoffs, meaning that their Road to Worlds dreams have ended. Meanwhile, the Storm, the Wardens, and the Sages are already waiting in Group C. This is the very last one of Group B to figure out who exactly is going to be joining the Wardens here, the Sages and the Storm from Group A. In that third group to try and qualify for Worlds, will we get the perfect 3, 4, 5, 6, or do the Weavers still have some fire to be able to fight back? And that's going to be the big question that gets answered in just a little bit. And looking at the names on these teams, and Bound Weavers and Scorpions, I mean, both of them, again, have people who've been around for a little while. I think it is unsurprising that the Scorpions, even though they showed, I think, some good potential that first day, unsurprising that they stayed in the lower bracket. Would not be maybe too surprising if they were able to overcome the Weavers. The Weavers, though, it is pretty kind of crazy to find out that they're down here.
Yeah, the Weavers have had a hot and cold so far weekend, I think, or week. And I think a lot of it comes down to, outside of layers, the consistency isn't really there. I think Zen has been somewhat consistent. I think they've shown that they have highs, but I think they have equal part lows, and I think that even includes layers. I just think layers is usually a little bit more towards the highs. And I think that's where their problem comes from. And usually when you talk about these lower-end teams, what their problem is, it is consistency. Consistency is usually a bigger problem with them, and that goes towards SPL also. The higher-end teams consistently dominating, lower-end teams not.
Yeah.
But I want to focus on the mid-lane matchup here. Trypno and Bayroneri. Bayroneri against Nog got heavily outplayed, more so on Nog just playing fantastic. But when they won, a lot of it was Bayroneri kind of putting the team in a comfortable position to actually take home a lot of these wins, these team fights. So that's what my eye is going to be on. How is Trypno going to play against Bayroneri? How is this 1v1 mid lane matchup going to kind of fizzle out?
And again, I think it's one that's genuinely exciting to watch because it feels like mages have been top of the tier. I didn't have a good
tier works.
I didn't really have a good place to go with it. But on top of that, you know, Thoth, the Kukulkan, Khan, those two have really been the ones kind of hanging on. If you let one through, well, then you typically get the other. If you ban one, especially if you're first pick like the Weavers, then you theoretically get the other. And this is a surprise because we have seen a lot of different prioritizations. Naja gets banned out first, something to control maybe just from the Scorpions, but the Cherno, the Kukulkan, Opwash, Poseidon, Athena, all those make sense. Aphrodite has been on the rise. Certain teams really love her, some teams hate her. The Weavers love her. They lock her in. Scorpions ignore the Thoth and go for the Raijin Morgan Le Fay duo.
Yeah, that's an interesting two for them because I think the Naja ban makes sense. Migiiiiii has looked fantastic on the Naja, and outside of it, I feel like he's been mediocre at best. But then if you go for this Morgan and this Raijin, look at this top three that the Weavers have. This is incredible. Afro, Thoth, a lot of good backline damage, some good survivability for the Thoth, and then Kama diving. We've already seen Kama dive with an Aphrodite backline literally just in that last game. If it goes late is insane. So great top three by the Weavers and more of like a basic but fine top three for the Scorpions. I mean, two mages that are strong. They're not top of the tier, I don't think, anymore. And then Hachi's just fine. But again, this Bog just keeps finding his weird spot where some games he's highly prioed. This game he's highly prioed. He's banned. Anhur, not banned, but they don't go for the Anhur, they go for this Hachi. Just seems like some weird prioritization.
And it feels like, and maybe it's just the carry role, like, and we kind of talked about this a little bit during the SPL and during the playoffs as well, where it's like, all right, you've got Chernobog, and then you can just play some of the others.
Yep.
like we talked, I think even yesterday, me and you were mentioning it because, you know, like Hachi, the Ishtar, Anhur, Rom, Izanami, like there's been like 6 that have kind of been juggled there. Xbalanque, if you watch just Cyclone Spin, he'll play it every now and then, but he gets locked in alongside an E-Shell who we don't see often.
Yeah, really kind of just a different last pick. I think bottom 2 by the Weavers. I think their top 3 incredible. I love all of them. This E-Shell is a little strange, I think. We've seen it a little bit sometimes, and it's usually towards the solo lane. And I think it's because it kind of helps. Yeah, it kind of helps in that solo lane matchup. I think she just lives it a lot. And we've seen Solo play it. Chel looks strong if she doesn't fall behind early.
Well, that's going to be the question here, right? When you're going up against another mage, so you at least have that going for you. How well can you hold your own in lane? The only way to find out is to go to the game and to jump down over to our casters.
Thank you so much, Gore and Inbound. Tyrian Weavers, Aaru Scorpions, big matchup to start us off. You've got Frog, you've got Dimes. Bring into the action, and I mean, this is another elimination match. We just have seen that qualification to Group C rather. We've now got 3 teams over there in this matchup against the wall, right? Both their backs up against the wall to make it into that final spot for Group C. And we got seeds 4, 5, 6 over there in Group C. This is seeds 2 and 3 from the regular season, Dime, so it should be a close matchup.
Yeah, as it's been proven, though, I mean, both in Europe and here in North America, especially the last couple of days, seeding has kind of mattered zero. Like, sure, you might have come in a 6th seed and you might have come in a 1st seed, but it has not affected play on field at all, as Promise is getting targeted down pretty early here on the left side of the map, but InMyZen falling right back up. But it hasn't affected the play on field at all, and like you mentioned, hold on here.
Wow, yeah, Beads getting burned off of Zen. I mean, you get a little bit of pressure over in that duel lane, but you're absolutely right to call out the lack of importance there. We just saw the 1 seed drop in that matchup to start the day, so the Valhalla Valkyrie is now completely out of it. And I mean, it stands to reason maybe the Tyrian Weavers have a little bit of extra pressure added to them. They've been finding success all season, but this tournament, right, falling down into this loser spot, now the chance to be eliminated before we even get to that final group, and they sort of get that second life. And I'm a little bit surprised at the drafts that we've seen come out here. It felt like a very strong top 3, as Bobby mentioned. Meanwhile, the Aaru Scorpions, they had the chance to take away this Thoth, take away this Camazotz potentially. Instead, they opt to, you know, really heavily prioritize this Raijin out for Bayroneri, which we saw Tim do so well on yesterday.
Yeah, I'm a fan of giving Bayroneri essentially anything they want, right? They give him the Baba Yaga, give him the Raijin. You prioritize a mid laner who puts up 70K on this Raijin in this tournament alone. Totally fine. Of course, Raijin has been preeminent in the meta recently, both in solo and in mid. I like it in solo. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Of course, we've seen it perform very strongly. Put a couple defensive items on it, all of a sudden it's nigh unkillable once you get into that ultimate. But if you put it in the mid lane, where you don't have to buy all these defensive items, or you don't need to, right? You just build full burst cannon, right? All of a sudden, you've got Migiiiiii diving the backline, as Migiiiiii loves to do. You've got a Scarab's Blessing for backup, Bayroneri pounding on the drums, right? We're seeing a lot of distraction here in the Aaru Scorpions draft, and it all starts on the back of Migiiiiii and Bayroneri.
Yeah, I think Migiiiiii especially has been one of the premier space creators. Hold that, though, Layers. Looking for some pressure here, and it's right around the blue buff spawn timers. He's got the level advantage, the damage advantage, a tower dive to start the game off. Layers takes 2 tower shots. He's not even worried about it. He grabs the first blood onto Migiiiiii, and they'll get the blue buff invade as well. A great start for the Weavers.
Frog, there was like 3 things about that was super impressive. 1, the timing. Tough spot, Bayroneri over the wall there, following up in Camazotz that stuck around a little longer than Layers would have liked to. But like I said, there was like 3 things there that was really impressive with me. 1, Layers' knowledge of timing, right? Layers knew exactly where Migiiiiii was going to be and that buff was going to be up. 2nd, Layers had a really excellent understanding of how Camazotz was going to fight into the Susano at around 2.5, 3 minutes, based on the itemization, based on levels, things like that. And took the fight knowing, okay, if I'm mechanically perfect, I come out on top of this. Layers was, in fact, mechanically perfect. And then the last thing that really jumped out at me there was knowing exactly how much damage that Layers was going to take from the tower shots, right? We saw Layers live with like 50 to 80, maybe 100 HP in the pocket after diving tower to take out Migiiiiii. That wasn't just like random, if I get first blood, I'll die here. Layers knew exactly how much damage and how many tower shots he could take and still live, come out on the other side with the first blood.
RelentlessOne, maybe trying to answer back would be Remakami. I don't know if I want to credit that as a solo kill. I don't know if he gets that without the one coming through from Layers, but I mean, you clearly see where they want to put the pressure, at least early on in this one. That's Layers' 2nd rotation over towards that solo lane, and maybe trying to put this Chel made solo in a better spot come these 2nd blue buff spots.
I'm really liking the Chel in the solo lane, Frog. I mean, when you think about Chel as a character, what the kit has in it, the sustainability, the survivability, it's got the same kind of damage output that you're seeing from like the Morgan Le Fays, the Raijins, things you've been shoving over in the solo lane. You add a little bit of extra survivability, you add some great damage and distraction with a little bit of team play come the late game, and Chel just makes a ton of sense over there in the solo lane. And we just saw the power come out, right? Remakami is playing a high damage character here at 5 minutes in the game with a couple damage items online in that Pythags in the starter as well. So RelentlessOne, this isn't just like a free lane. Oh, Chel not going to be really online until later stages of the game. Remakami can take these fights and come out on top.
Absolutely. The raw damage, right? 2 mages going at it. And we saw how prioritized this Morgan Le Fay was from RelentlessOne, from the Scorpions as well during that pick and ban, right? They top pick this Morgan Le Fay along with the Raijin. So maybe some focus here, rightfully so. You want to be putting this pick down early. On the second blue buff spawn, Layers is not over there to help. Instead, he's on the left-hand side of the map. And in fact, you'll get the ultimate from GuyJ. They'll look for the purple buff invade instead, and they get that one as well. So action across the map. And really, so far, it's been all Layers all day long, right? 6 minutes in, it's been entirely this Camazotz, I think, pushing the pressure across the map. Now 2 buff invades on opposite sides.
You said it earlier when you said Migiiiii's going to set the tone, right? And same thing for the Tyrian Weavers. Layers is definitely going to be the beating heart and soul of this team. I mean, typically, hold on a second here, Frog. Remakami might be in a tough spot.
Wow, yeah, uses the ultimate early on, avoids the knockup, but just trying to make sure his blue doesn't get stolen away. He's not able to secure it, but maybe looking for the fight after the fact. As RelentlessOne's going forward with the ultimate. I think he might be lost for this one, but great Scarab's blessing saves the life of the soul laner. Layers trying to die for the kill, and he will trade his life out for it, but that might not be the end of the engagement. Trypno, gotta be careful. He doesn't get turned around on here, but I don't think they have the damage to continue. It will just be the 1-for-1 for now.
Maybe not. I mean, the Thoth uses the ultimate. Chel is here. Geno is completely out of mana. And it all starts with what was a pretty innocuous invasion there. I mean, you start around the blue buff, you trade some back and forth damage, and then just some interesting pathing there from RelentlessOne, right? You duck under the fire giant pit. It looked weird to us, but the whole reason that RelentlessOne was going that way was to, you know, close the distance with the Scarab, gets the Scarab's blessing, respawns. That creates enough time for the rest of the squad to move in. Bayroneri comes around, gets a kill on top of it as well. Sure, the Tyrian Weavers traded out, but what we saw there from the Aaru Scorpions was some nice team play, right? We saw RelentlessOne moving towards the teammates. We saw teammates back up. That kind of cohesiveness, especially backs against the wall, elimination match, it's going to really shore up some of those consistency problems that Inbound was talking about on the desk. And I really like to see excellent communication and good team play, good team cohesiveness come out there early in the game.
Yeah, the Scorpions early on trying to maybe stem a little bit of this bleeding that Layers has been causing. So good they're able to trade that one out, but still seeing the action, and it's on these buff invades. Right as the buffs spawn, you see the step-ups from the Tyrian Weavers. They steal away the green buff this time around. You saw Layers on the right-hand side, thought he might put some additional pressure onto that blue buff, but it's just these constant questions that you're asking if you're the jungler here, right? Layers is just being present in the enemy jungle. And I'm wondering your thoughts on, like, where does Migiiiiii try to answer this back? Susano maybe more of a mid-game pick compared to that. We saw the 1v1 earlier, right? Camazotz versus Susano and how that goes. So where does Migiiiiii try to get involved to try and maybe shore up a little bit of this gold lead that's already been built?
Well, when Layers is clearly targeting the right side of the map and invading the jungle, you got a couple options if you're Migiiiiii, right? You can either stick around the right side of the map, as Migiiiii's doing right now, and try to answer some of that pressure, try to help out your solo laner, make sure blue buffs are going your way, things like that. Looks like that's the case right now, as Layers is looking for yet another blue buff invade. And Migiiiiii and Layers, they just refuse to leave this lane alone.
Yeah, I don't know if they know that Layers is here, and Migiiiiii actually blinks back in, but now the dive on the Bat of Hell will have to take the tower shot. See, this is a deep dive. He's all the way under the tier 1,
wow.
But he'll get the jump over the wall, and he won't get the kill, but he'll make sure he survives survives the day. Remakami has the beads burned as well on the backside, but for all the health, nobody ends up dying.
Dude, that's kind of surprising. Layers had the shots. Bayroneri taking a shot there from Trypno. A little bit of a heat check there from the Thoth. Yeah, kind of shocking that nobody died. We saw both blink be expended, and that's going to be tough when it comes to engaging for Migiiiiii, right? If you're the Susano, you love to blink into the back line, pop that huge AoE ultimate, maybe get a couple man knock up. But we were talking about rotations and where you're looking for. Well, Migiiiiii responded there into the solo lane, right? Didn't work out because Layers was right behind him, because we know Layers is going to hang around on this solo lane side of the map. So maybe you got to start turning your attention to other lanes, right? You go to mid, you go to duo. You know what the problem is, Frog? Trypno is one of the safest mages in the game on this Thoth with a huge dash. You got a lockdown CC inherent in the kit as well. And then you look at InMyZen and Promise, Aphrodite has a button you can press to just literally not die, crazy healing, and InMyZen has one of the best hunter leaps in the game to get you out of danger in that Rising Jaguar. So Migiiiii's in a tough spot right now. We're like, where do I go to find the best opportunity to get kills and create space for my team when everyone around the map on the enemy is going to be able to just press an ultimate button and escape, or just straight up avoid me altogether?
Well, maybe it's the counter engage button that they try to press. Migiiiiii and Geno here onto Promise. They'll at least trade back a little bit of damage, but I feel like every single buff spawn, every single timer that has come up here, the Weavers have gotten away with at least one buff, if not a kill to boot. And Migiiiiii might be the kill here as Promise grabs the last hit. GuyJ trying to get out of there on the horseback, but Layers has a little bit of chase down. That would be a crazy dive. We've seen Layers dive a couple of towers so far this game, but GuyJ will find the safety under the tier 2. But it's every single time that these buff invades come up, and Aaru Scorpions, they're present to watch it happen. But I mean, so far every single skirmish that ends up happening just consistently going the Weavers' way. These small wins are adding up.
Layers is nuts. Like, there's a reason we've seen Layers at the highest level of SPL play, right? Being on a world championship team. Layers goes crazy in the jungle and is not going to stop just because he's in a lower level of play or back against the wall fighting for a spot at the SMITE World Championship. And it's going to depend on the Aaru Scorpions shutting down Layers as a team, right? Migiiiii's not going to be able to 1v1 this dude. Bayroneri's not going to be able to. Trypno might be in a tough spot. It's 3v1, but easy dash away there for the Thoth. But it's all going to come down to the Aaru Scorpions taking team fights in which Layers can get shut down and isn't allowed to free cast in the backline, right? Because if you send this Camazotz into the backline, put him on Bayroneri after the dash, or GuyJ and Hachiman with no ultimate, all of a sudden it's just a buffet and Layers goes nuts with those vampire bats. But if you can lock down Layers with, you make sure you burn the beads when Layers inevitably picks those up. Geno goes in for the hug, grabs him, locks him down. Big shots from Bayroneri, a couple autos from Guy. You put the jungler in the ground, all of a sudden, the team fight looks way more comfortable for the Scorps.
Wow, Bayro taking a lot of poke there as Layers once again finding his way into the enemy jungle. And we've seen, you talked a lot about the safety on the left-hand side of the map. The Weavers, of course, a lot of safety in those carry picks. The Aphrodite with that get-out-of-jail-free card. On the other side, I'm looking forward to the team fights from the Scorpions because they have a couple of the same calling cards, right? You have that Scarab's Blessing. Yep. You have GuyJ able to get on the horse. When we get into those later game team fights, I mean, what do you want to see from the Weavers to maybe keep this pressure up? We won't even get the chance to ask the question, actually, is Remakami into the ultimate. Got to have the damage first, though. And RelentlessOne finds the answer back onto the enemy solo. This might open a window for the Gold Fury, though.
Man, smart here from the Weavers to check out the Gold Fury. GuyJ's rotating in. Same thing goes for the rest of the Scorps. They know exactly what the game is here for the Weavers.
Half health already, though. They might want a 50-50 this as it gets low, and the Weavers secure the objective, but the taunt back in comes through and pulls in two. Damage to follow up, not enough there, but the Weavers, they act fast off of the gank on the right-hand side. They secure themselves the Fury.
Couple things there I want to break down for you. Is Geno's in a weird spot here, Frog, between two.
Dangerous, man. You gotta, I mean, Scarab's Blessing will get you an extra life, but I mean, you delay it for long enough, he's still under pressure here. You have to have the peel, at least the punish there, though, and they'll take that trade every day of the week. Support for jungler there. You get a shutdown onto Layers. Maybe stepping up a little bit too far, but you answer back on the jungler, not feeling too bad.
Yeah, a little weird from layers going that deep. That might have just been an ego play. Like, I'm going to pick up the kill no matter what. I'm going to trade my life for it. But going back to the Gold Fury that we just saw, you mentioned... Oh, I thought it was a clone. Oh my God, I thought Remakami just like annihilated RelentlessOne. It's not going to be a 50-50. Like, I know it sounds like it, you know, the other team's moving in. It's maybe Raijin's got great secure, but Trypno's got that final judgment in the back pocket. Like, realistically, you're going to be able to find that one huge boom shot out of Trypno to secure objectives, whereas Bayroneri has to send out multiple percussive blasts from the ultimate to do the same exact thing. So even though the Tyrian Weavers were maybe on precarious ground there as the Gold Fury was getting low and the Aaru Scorpions were moving into the pit, it was a little bit more certain than it might have appeared with Trypno charging the ultimate. The Tyrian Weavers knew exactly what their damage threshold was, and as soon as their shot caller was like, yo, it's damage cap, hit the button, let's do it, Trypno fired the ultimate, the Tyrian Weavers secure it, and then find a little bit more on the backside.
And that might be the objective play they're looking to take advantage of. They're grouped right here around the Pyromancer. 3v4 for the time being, but you see the rotation from the ADC. That's going to be the difference maker. Zen's over here, and GuyJ is still farming it up on the left-hand side. Pyromancer dropped low, and the Weavers once again grab the secure. You might, you know, call that fun, right? 3-man ultimate to come through for Migiiiiii at the end of it there, but you can get a sense early of how the Weavers are looking to play around these objectives.
I was going to grab a tower on the left-hand side. That's just a consolation prize, but Pyromancer certainly takes the cake, right? You get the Pyro, you get the gold, you get the XP from the objective. You also clear an objective off the map, so all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about the right side of the map as much. You don't have to worry about rotations, you don't have to worry about warding, right? For the next couple of minutes, 3.5, let's call it, you can focus a little bit more on the left-hand side when the Gold Fury spawns. You can focus on other parts of the map. And then as a bonus, might be the main thing, actually, from the Pyromancer, of course, the Runic Bomb, right? So all of a sudden, sieges, team fights, Gold Furies, everything gets a little bit more easier for an already strong Tyrian Weavers team when it comes to secure, pressing into towers and things like that. So yeah, tower, all good, right? Maybe GuyJ gets another level up over the opposition in InMyZen. Zen's going to farm that right back up. At the end of the day, the Pyromancer is always going to be the cream of the crop. Good play there from the Tyrian Weavers. And as a bonus on top, Trypno didn't even have to burn the final judgment ultimate to secure it.
The Pyromancer, a lot of value depending on how you get the usage out of that Runic Bomb. But right now we'll have to wait a little bit, see how that gets used. It's the question around the beacon and if the Aaru Scorpions are willing to step up into that one. It'll so far be a 1-for-1 trade on those beacons, right? And you get the pressure a little bit now onto the Weavers more so. Despite this good objective play we've seen, both the Gold Fury and the Pyromancer going into the pockets of the Weavers, the Aaru Scorpions have managed to keep it close here, maintaining this 2,000 gold lead for quite a while. And that's, I think, some of the picks, some of the answer back you're seeing come through in farm, right? When you know the Gold Fury is happening, you get a gank on the right-hand side. You know the Pyromancer is happening, you're getting a little bit of extra farm on the left-hand side. Grab that tier 1 tower, right? So despite giving up a couple of these objectives, the Aaru Scorpions doing a good job to toe the line, and they haven't drawn their line in the sand yet, but I mean, we're getting to that point.
Good call there, giving flowers to the Scorpions, because when there's a gold lead and it's a little bit stagnant, there's always a question of, okay, is the team with the gold lead, did they just take their foot off the pedal and they're not pressing their lead as hard as they should have? And the other squad, the squad on the losing end of that gold lead, are they just not capitalizing? Trypno's getting yoinked in here by Geno. But no, you're totally right. The Tyrian Weavers have been pressing the advantage. They have been getting these objectives. So the Aaru Scorpions have been intentionally and actively macro farming a little bit better, keeping that gold lead nice and tight. So it's certainly worth noting that the Aaru Scorpions have credit for that. Oni Fury's back online here. It's a huge rotation out from the solo laners on their way, likely, as RelentlessOne's still chilling in solo.
Picked up early, looking for the secure, and the Weavers have it once again. Bread and butter for them at this point around the objectives. Wow. And you got to imagine, you give up the Thoth. They had the opportunity to take the Thoth away, a pick that's been so highly contested in these weekends of play, and you give it over to Trypno, and this is exactly how they drew it up. They've now taken 3 objectives in a row. If you're the Aaru Scorpions, where do you draw the line in the sand? What minute point, what power spikes are you waiting for to take this full-on fight?
Well, you talked about the team compositions earlier, and we didn't get to chat about it because both these squads refused to stop fighting, but I do want to talk about it now. I mean, you look at the Aaru Scorpions composition, and it's clear to me what their game plan is, right? We have to team fight, and we have to play around Migiiiiii, we have to play around Bayroneri. The survivability in this team is nuts, right? GuyJ in the back has phenomenal peel between CC, a dash, and a CC immune ultimate that allows you to create tons of distance between you and the enemy. Geno's got Scarab's Blessing, right? Bound 4, ready to hit for anybody who gets low. It's likely going to be Migiiiiii diving into the back line. Migiiiii's going to create tons of space with that ultimate, and then all of a sudden Bayroneri and RelentlessOne both have CC baked into the kit as well. As the Aaru Scorpions are hanging out around this Pyromancer, it's going to be a team fight here, and we're going to see the power of this distraction-oriented, split-up, more complex and mechanical team fight from the Scorpions.
Yeah, I mean, I think we ask where they want to draw the line. Might be at this 4th objective here, the Pyromancer. This goes down to the Weavers. That'd be 4 in a row. Be 2 runic bombs in their pocket, and I think that might be where the Scorpions want to fight around, as it's down to half HP, and Remakami up in the front line. A blink in from Layers, and the ultimate hits nobody. But look at Migiiiiii in the back line. The junglers doing work to try and find some of these kills, as Bayro gets saved by a beautiful Scarab's Blessing. And now here's the chase. Migiiiiii finds Layers in the back of the fight, and the health bars are low for the Weavers. They've overstayed a little bit too long, and Promise will fall as well. A double pullback, and Migiiiiii, RelentlessOne combine. They're looking for the last one, and it's a full-on deicide for the Aaru Scorpions as they get a clean wipe.
Man, that was just as they baked it up, and they say, who needs a Pyromancer when you can go straight for Fire Giant here at 21.5 minutes, Frog. That's exactly what the Scorpions were looking for. An engagement here from the Tyrian Weavers stepping forward, and then we saw that crazy CC come out, right? RelentlessOne with the fears, with the damage. Bayroneri separating the fight out with the ultimates, using the taunt, using the fear to create space. Migiiiiii in the back line, wrapping all the way around, saves the blink for the end of the fight, becomes all the way around and uses the ultimate to knock up Trypno and another member of the back line. They peel off from the rest of the fight. So all of a sudden, Layers and Remakami are like forward. The Tyrian Weavers notice, oh wait, it's just Layers and Remakami. They turn around. Migiiiiii splits the fight in half beautifully. You mentioned Bayro got saved by the Scarab's Blessing, has a second life. And all of a sudden, the Aaru Scorpions score a deicide. They grab a Fire Giant and now a couple towers, because why not?
And this lead has flipped on its head. It was 2K for the Weavers, 2K now for the Scorpions, and it's not looking to stop. Promise forced to use the ultimate, and Trypno, he's off the mark with the ultimate of his own. This Fire will fall. Layers maybe looking for a dive. As the chase now on for the Weavers. Got to be careful if you're the Scorpions not to fall too low here. The health bars, very careful to keep them as high as possible. But I mean, this is the Weavers not feeling too much pressure despite losing that fight, losing the Fire Giant, stepping up confidently in this mid lane. You got this sustain from the Fire Giant team now, and the fight just brewing on a nice edge here, Dives.
Well, the Tyrian Weavers are able to do so because of a couple reasons. One, InMyZen has got that Darkest of Nights ultimate, right? You cut the lights out, and all of a sudden you can either hit the gas pedal if you feel like you have a good in, or if the Aaru Scorpions are engaging, then the Tyrian Weavers can just take their losses, bite it, and get out of there. This Gold Fury is not even being contested here by the Tyrian Weavers, Frog.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they can step up into it. You at least get the final judgment through some of the members there. Bayro knocked down to half HP. And this Thoth ultimate has been such a focal point, I think, through a couple of these fights. You use it to secure the objectives, and we're oftentimes seeing this Thoth start the fights with it. You've got that Staff of Mirrodin, right? You want to be starting the fights with this ultimate. And in past games, right, even outside of this set, as we get a little bit of a dive, the Darkest of Nights comes through, but I'm not sure they're in a position to contest here. You'll just get the tier 2 tower, and the timing maybe a little bit off from the Weavers as they can't defend the tier 2 tower, and I'm not sure they're in a position to chase this one down either. It's only Layers up furthest here, but the Aaru Scorpions just, once again, playing the macro game so well.
You could feel Layer's blood boiling there, right? Like you could feel the desire to dive, the blink in, the ultimate to get out. I mean, there's so much safety here from the Tyrian Weavers that's allowing Layers to play forward like that. Promise has the ultimate, Remakami's got heals, Promise has got heals as well. Trypno's damage is a form of CC in itself. Unfortunately, though, when you base your win con around 1 or 2 people, in this case, Layers and Trypno really leading the charge, the Aaru Scorpions answered in turn. They separate Layers, they separate Trypno from the end of the pack. Every team fight they've won, they've done the same thing, or any engagement, really, even if it's not even a kill or just a TKO. They separate Layers and Trypno from the rest of the squad. They take them down, and then the Tyrian Weavers have a lot less to work with. You got to either start fighting as a pack here if you're the Tyrian Weavers and getting that initial engagement and not letting the Aaru Scorpions completely discombobulate your backline, or you have to take a fight under a Phoenix.
Under pressure here is Layers, and that's a good trade if you're the Scorpions for almost nothing there. In fact, literally for nothing, you get Layers' ultimate out of the fight, and that's a great ultimate to take away early on. He's been one of the premier divers there, and that's, I mean, maybe the question is, if you're the Weavers, yeah, maybe it's on, it feels like it's on the back more so on 2 of these players. This Thoth ultimate has been such a focal point, as I mentioned. Maybe a tier 2 tower question mark here asked if you're the Scorpions. The Fire Giant has fallen off at this point, so I think you got to be maybe a little bit careful before you take a full-on engagement here, but they certainly have the positioning. If you're the Weavers, how are you looking to fight back into this as this Fire Giant's coming up in just a minute here or so? Won't even get the chance to ask, though, is Geno looking to pull Promise. You get a couple of ultimates up, and he gets eliminated and forced to use the Scarab's Blessing. Only a great ultimate takes him out, and Layers is forced to leave the fight as they get a pick to start it off.
Wow. Geno, and that, okay. Literally, it's like the Tyrian Weavers are reading my brain. Number 1, Geno's ultimate cannot be used on another teammate, right? We saw it used on Bayro to great effect in that Fire Giant Pyromancer scuffle about 10 minutes ago. Geno was forced to use the Scarab's Blessing ultimate on himself, and all of a sudden, the Aaru Scorpions lose a ton of utility and survivability, and now the Tyrian Weavers are taking advantage.
They're on the Fire Giant, but they're lacking their secure tool. No final judgment available, and the Scorpions looking for the steal, and they find it. They take away the Fire Giant, and they're looking for the fight after the fact. Trypno, the safety have to be used, but it's not enough as Promise falls as well. A 2 for 2 across the fight, but Migiiiiii with the double kill is able to take another member down. It's only Remakami and Layers here looking to continue the chase, and then RelentlessOne doing a little bit of peeling on his own. Geno to rejoin the fight, and that should slow things down as Remakami now on the retreat, but Fire Giant stolen away by the Scorpions, and they might even try and secure another kill here. Remakami, you lose the beads, you're looking to lose the life here as well. Both relics get burned. Okay, all right, man. Somehow in the base, but now they're pushing the mid Phoenix.
What? Layers goes down. Geno, Migiiiiii, and RelentlessOne teaming up to take down a Firebird as well, and that's kind of on the back of Remakami there, sticking along so long and kind of leading the Aaru Scorpions straight to the Phoenix. Layers goes back in. Not even sure if Layers had time to go back to the fountain and heal or was still low. Either way, is going to be dead for the next 40 seconds there. Aaru Scorpions taking a nice team fight, and then they've been taking great advantage of the stuff after the stuff, right? They've been finding the space in the team fights, or at least sending players, Weavers, back to base, and then have been using that presence on the map to take down Primal Furies, to take down Fire Giants. And there, the Aaru Scorpions, they just grabbed themselves a Phoenix.
Yeah, and I don't know what to say, man. That's such a funny chase down. Like, how does Remakami survive on that right-hand side?
How does RelentlessOne survive?
Yeah, and how does it almost ends up being punishing for Remakami to survive, because if Remakami had been killed a little bit earlier on there, maybe they don't push as far forward. Maybe they don't get that mid bird and are able to try and take it part of that advantage. But I mean, how does that even happen? How does that Fire Giant steal happen?
I think it was Migiiiii. I mean, you watched Migiiiii wrap all the way around the long pathing for the Fire Giant, right? The Tyrian Weavers had absolutely zero clue. There were no wards back there. There was nobody to spot him out. At that point, Layers had already moved forward to engage on the Aaru Scorpions. Migiiiii uses the ultimate. It didn't look to me like it connected with the Fire Giant. I'm not actually have no idea what stole away the Fire Giant. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was so shocked because anytime Trypno's on the map, it just feels like a guarantee. Right? It feels like the Weavers have that trump card in the ultimate, or at the very least at the shots you can send out using that first ability through the wall for bonus damage, by the way. That I didn't even consider the Scorpions having a shot at stealing it away, but Migiiiii wraps around, creates tons of space, and the Aaru Scorpions utilize the CC in their kit. They utilize the disruption they have available to them to split the fight in half. Unfortunately, Tyrian Weavers, they find a couple of backliners on one side of the split, take advantage and find a couple kills, but at the very least, it was enough for the Scorpions and Migiiiii to go to work.
You got to imagine if they had that final judgment, if they hadn't killed NotGeno with it, then maybe they reconsider around that Fire Giant. Maybe that's what they're thinking now. Like, I don't, if I'm the Weavers and I'm thinking about objective play, I'm thinking about the next Fire Giant that's going to spawn. This is even more important, right? We're getting the EFG territory into the game. The next one that spawns could be the I mean, that Fire Giant could have been a game-winning Fire Giant if it wasn't for Layers and Remakami trading a couple of members back in that one fight, right? So this next Fire Giant carries the most weight on it of this game thus far. And if I'm the Weavers, I don't know if I'm using the Final Judgment like that on a pick early on. I might be trying to really save it for the Fire Giant because of how that last steal attempt goes.
I totally agree with a couple caveats. I don't think you're using the Final Judgment on Geno, right? We saw it used to take out the Scarab after the Scarab's Blessing ultimate was used to regenerate Geno. You can't use it on the Khepri. You can use it to take out Migiiiii, you can use it to take out Guy or Bayroneri, but you save it if it's on RelentlessOne or Geno, right? They're not going to be priority targets here. This late in the game, you're going to be paying attention a lot, especially to Bayro, as the Tyrian Weavers are trying to press into the Fire Giant pit here. But you're definitely saving it for the objective unless you can grab a critical member of the backline. You take them out. Otherwise, if you're just taking out Geno, that's a great start, and they should do the exact same thing to try to strip that ultimate away. You just let him live.
Whoa, Migiiiii with the ultimate gets the ultimate out of Promise as well. And you take it off Remakami. So a 1-for-3 trade in terms of ultimates. InMyZen uses the Darkest Nights as well. Didn't even catch that as the engagement comes through. They thought it was engaged. Really, it's onto Layers though, and he loses his ultimate as well. The Aaru Scorpions almost just bait out the engage and take all of these tools away from the Weavers.
Yeah, Weaver's got nothing. I don't even think you step into this Fire Giant pit. That was a hasten popped as well. So they're stomping in the Fire Giants at half HP.
The only ultimate left is this Final Judgment, and that's what you have to be aware of. Though a Frenzy popped and a pull back in onto Promise. No safety available, but somehow it comes back up and the ultimates come through. They get away. Bayro survives on 1 HP, and the health bars are low on both sides here as the abilities are not able to finish off anybody. What? Dude, how does nobody die?
And now the Tyrian Weavers have so much sustain between the E-Shell. Layers has sustain baked into the kit. Promise has birds. Ultimate's going to be back online. Zen's got lifesteal as well. The Weavers in a great spot.
They're going for it again, but once the Final Judgment is still not on the board, they don't need it if they're getting the picks, though. GuyJ miraculously saved by the Scarab's Blessing, and it turns into a 1-for-1. RelentlessOne down, Layers down, and Promise the third Aphrodite ult this fight, but it doesn't save him this time around. Supports fall down, and Migiiiii trades another one, but the Final Judgment comes through and Trypno ends the fight.
Oh my god. They stacked up Trypno. they stacked up in Trypno's scope, and Trypno pulled the trigger, and it was beautiful. That was the nastiest collateral I've seen in a long time, Frog. I mean, back on Trypno put that team fight on his back. And InMyZen, actually, I want to call out Zen, who was pumping out tons of damage, found some huge huge crits there onto the backline that knocked down a lot of those targets to get low. Does find one of the kills as well. And then Trypno just raining artillery from the backline, was completely allowed to free cast. And I'm going to give credit to Promise and Layers, who created so much space, especially Layers, who was just being a total nuisance in the backline for the Scorpions there, that Trypno's at full HP, dude. Remakami and Promise have healing, but like, you should have come out of a team fight at 33 minutes in the game completely full HP.
We got to talk about this, though. Trypno and Remakami have been on this since full HP, and RelentlessOne now back from base. It's getting low. They're gotta look for the secure ultimate available. It's too early. Scorpions!
No way.
Take it away! RelentlessOne on his own, and Trypno misses the secure. Somehow the Scorpions 5 with EFG.
Dude, RelentlessOne, I don't even give that to RelentlessOne. RelentlessOne was just pouring abilities into the Fire Giant. Listen, that is a solo lane Morgan Le Fay with a breastplate, with magical defense, not built to 100 to 0, right? This is not a mid lane Morgan Le Fay. Trypno's got to time the ult better. Like, end of story, period, sentence is over. Trypno was a little bit off with the timing of the ultimate. The charge was fine. You can hold the ultimate on. Oni Fury's going to go down here to the Scorpions on the back end of that Fire Giant as well. But, I mean, there's no excuse for Trypno pulling the trigger a second too early against a RelentlessOne that isn't going to have as much damage, full stop.
The fight, I mean, now Aaru Scorpions with everything to play with. And once again, you get these small advantages burned away. Remakami loses the ultimate. Promise loses the ultimate. Those elements of safety now off the table, all in trade for that Morgan Le Fay ultimate. And you have to look at these runic bombs in pocket as well. Dimes 2 sitting there for the Scorpions for their potential to push down the siege. I mean, they've got 3 minutes now with this enhanced Fire Giant, and Oni waves behind them to push this up.
I do like the Tyrian Weavers defense, though. Thoth has a phenomenal defense, easy wave clear from distance, right? Promise can keep everybody topped off on HP. Layers is going to move around in the back line just fine. Remakami's got great clear and sustain as well. So the fight's good, but the Aaru Scorpions dive is crazy. Migiiiiii can go deep. Geno can use the ultimate. Guy can kite. RelentlessOne's got HP and protections. The dive is great from the Scorpions. The Tyrian Weavers have a phenomenal defense. It's going to be an unstoppable object, unmovable force, whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about.
It's something like that, man. And already he gets some ultimates traded out early on. Bayro loses the drums, and the final judgment misses everybody, splits the uprights in the back, and the mid Phoenix gone at the drop of a hat. Layers and Remakami trying to combine on the dive, but they only succeed in dropping members low. Nobody falls on the side of the Scorpions, and that's another final judgment that can't be splitting the uprights there.
And Geno has ultimate, the Scarab's Blessing. So the Scorpions don't even have to back off here. They can back off a little bit, allow that enhanced Fire Giant to tick up their HP as RelentlessOne takes a big shot there from Trypno. That was just a normal ability there from Trypno. It wasn't even the ultimate. But the healing from the Fire Giant is going to come up big here. And then Geno still got the Scarab's Blessing, which means the Scorpions can hit the pedal to the metal as long as they want.
Well, that's the runic bombs gone. They used that to eliminate the bird in mid and eliminate the bird in left. Migiiiiii now separated from the rest of the squad, a 4-1 split. And he's got Layers over there in the mid lane as well. Yeah, Migiiiii's been such a nuisance in the back of the fight here. With this EFG falling off in just a couple of seconds, you have to look for your pick. Promise the ultimate off the mark again, and you lose the final judgment early in the fight. Remakami down low, Trypno down to 75%, but that's the go button. Aaru Scorpions in onto the right side. Phoenix's Bayro drops the drums over the wall, but you got the in and out, the sustain from the EFG, and the bird now collapsed on, but Migiiiiii trades out a kill with the jungler, and he gets taken down, a double kill as Layers comes up big on the defense. The Titans at half HP, Dimes, but somehow the Weavers are still alive.
Unbelievable there. The Scorpions played that pretty well. Promise stepped forward too far, right? That's how it all begins. Promise has the ultimate online, steps forward a little bit too far, gets snagged by the abduct from Khepri and has to burn the ultimate. All of a sudden the Scorpions say, guys, their ultimates are still down from those other bird fights. Promise just used that protective ultimate. Wait, Geno, do you have ult still? Geno's got ult. Let's go. Like, let's dive. What's the worst thing that happens? One of us gets a little bit too deep, and then all of a sudden, oh, we have a second life because of Scarab's blessing. It's exactly what happened. They don't get the Phoenix. They do trade a couple, but the whole time, minions pouring into the base, dealing damage to the Titan as well. It's unfortunate there that the Scorpions couldn't capitalize and snag the bird. Maybe a couple of auto attacks from Guy could have landed instead of finding a home in one of the Tyrian Weavers. But a great defense there from the Weavers. And I think that just goes to show that Trypno, even without Ultimate online, you're totally right. Ultimate's got to land, period. Absolutely can't split the uprights. But even with no Ultimate, Trypno has so much damage in the kit, in the back pocket, that there's still opportunity to fight.
Fire Giant now back on the map. Remakami Bastion. I think he doesn't think he's in trouble here, and maybe in a little bit more than he expected. But Layers, look how far away he is from the rest of his squad. He's on to Bayroneri. But the safety will come through, and Geno is there just in case, as once again the final judgment is just not getting the value it needs to, as Layers is caught lazy backing in the wings. GuyJ has to use the escape tools, has to use the Aegis, and will survive somehow, but the damage comes through across the fight as they take down 2, and the Scorpions pushing forward.
Layers has to back. Promise is going to go down here. No ultimate available for the Aphrodite. It's a lot of low health members here of the Scorpions, but they are 5.
This might do it though. Low health bars, but you have the ultimates available still for Promise. He's the only one that's got the diamond, but he's dead. Nobody has any ultimates here. The mid bird falls down, the left bird respawns, but the damage that Trypno is putting out, you can't afford a misstep here. And Trypno is the one to die finally. The Titan falls down and the Tyrian Weavers fall. Aaru Scorpions take game number 1.
That inning was prophesized. I mean, there was only 2 members, no ultimates online. Titan was like, what, 40% HP maybe. You got 5 members of the Scorpions. Sure, they're low, but there's something to be said just for strength in numbers. You walk into the Titan and there's only so much 2 can do against 5.
Yeah, I mean, in the Aaru Scorpions, they find so many of these counter engages, it felt like. They just, such a patient game from them. I don't know how else to describe it other than to just call it patient. They waited for their moments to counter engage, and for as many individual plays we saw from the other side on Layers, you get, I don't know, man. They got to do something here in game 2 to adapt on the other side. Tyrian Weavers now 1 game away from elimination. Stick around through the break. We'll be back for game number 2.
Met your friend the other day. Heard you've been trying to reach me. Good luck with that. I threw my phone into the pool. There's no reason for your feelings. who's keeping score? You better run for your life and sleep with one eye open. How do I feel? I feel fine, knowing that you don't. I'm done with second chances. Ask all you want. I got no new answers. How do I feel? I feel fine. You better run for your life. It's over. It's over. Let's not waste our time. Remember, it's over. We've been through this before, over and over. Let's not waste our time. Remember, it's over. It's over. You better run for your life. It's over. It's over. Let's not waste our time. Remember, it's over. We've been through this before, over and over. Let's not waste our time. Remember, it's over. It's over. It's over. My exes and me, we don't talk anymore. If we did, I think it would get pretty ugly. They made me believe love's an open door in the beginning, then they shut it pretty quickly. I thought we were good, at times even great, but apparently I was just one big mistake. My exes and me, we don't talk anymore. If we did, I think it would get pretty ugly. I'm just a victim and not the evil villain, so I'm sorry, not sorry that everyone
That's right, Cthulhu's Dream now available. You go to advance.gg/smite and you can pick up your own copy. What a tub. That's what the
Tub.
Sorry, I was like, it's not a copy. That's like books. Your own tub of the raspberry acai flavored powder that you can then use in your new Cthulhu shaker. Pick them up while you can. Advance.gg/smite. It's delicious. Again, it's a really, really good fusion. And by metric of having Cthulhu on it, it is at least 10 times cooler than it would be otherwise, which means that it's really, really cool because it would be a really delicious flavor even without that. So it's just gone above and beyond, and you should too by going to advance.gg/smite. But as far as things go right now, it's Gore, and it's inbound as we start to look at Game 2 of this set. Scorpions win Game 1, and this was a very seesaw, tug of war, back and forth, whatever you want to use to call it kind of game.
Yeah, for sure there was a lot of back and forth, and I think a lot of it comes down to the inability of the Weavers to secure a Fire Giant. 2 Fire Giants, they pull, and 2 Fire Giants, they lose. And it's not like we're talking Thoth ult versus Cuckoo ult, 2 big ultimates, and it's a 50-50 if you pull. No, one of them was a Thoth ult with only one person in the vicinity, and the Thoth ult was mistimed, and then the other one was just an entire team fight that happens, and the Thoth ult is just not able to confirm it either. And that is a problem. That beginning to end is a problem for the Weavers. If you are picking a secure mage, you need to be able to secure fire. It's like picking Poseidon, Gore, and not being able to secure fire, and we know how that's gone before. But
I
that
just had so many nightmare flashbacks to Worlds games with Poseidon in them.
the start of something right now. Thoth versus secure, and he's not going to be able to secure going into Worlds time. But the Scorpions still, even though they were able to seal these Fire Giants, they were able to make plays after the Fire Giant, after they got the secure. They were able to push. Their sieges looked, I wouldn't say super clean, but they looked clean enough. And I think the problem that stuck out to me the most for the Scorpion side of things, the Weaver side of things, was the Fire Giant secure. For the Scorpions, it was that the weirder part of the middle game, you said it was a little bit of a seesaw, and I agree, and it was the Scorps had a nice little lead at multiple points in this game, and they needed a Fire Giant to really start pushing it. And I think if they can have that lead and build on a lead without, you know, relying on a secure on Fire Giant, I think that'll really bode well for them in this next game. And even looking across the board at the damage, I mean, Scorpions across the board, 43k, 30k, 35k, 20k, a lot of damage on both of these teams, but 43k from Relentless on this solo lane Morgan, as opposed to just 23 from Remakami. That is like the biggest thing for me, because these solo mages, this is their job. They are supposed to do damage, they are supposed to harass, and they're supposed to be able to sustain in these fights. And the Morgan did it way better than this Chel did. Chel.
And really, I think we got to see, you know, a lot of it. First off, Bayroneri had another good game, right? 5, 3, and 10 with the assists. And it really does feel a lot like that, where it is, you know, damage numbers in general a little higher on the Scorpions. But there were also like some really weird trades where it'd be like Scorpions 10k up, lose, you know, they kill 2, lose 5, and then it's like, okay, that's gonna set you back
weird.
a little
that
bit.
Shouldn't happen.
Yeah, little moments like that. So cleaning those up, maybe the key to sealing the deal. The question is whether or not they can do it here. So remember, this is a Weavers elimination game. They lose this, they are done. If they win this, they get one more shot. Same thing for the Scorpions. But it is the end of one of these two teams. It's just a question of now or in a game from now. So Scorpions, second pick. Weavers, once again, on first pick. We'll start the bans. Kukulkan, Athena up front. The Chernobog, so far nothing too surprising. The Poseidon ends up getting banned out as well. The Naja with a return in the Opwash. So pretty similar, if not the same, as last time around. What do you highlight the most? And this time they feel the Raijin.
And
ride the lightning. I should have said this time they ride the lightning. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Ride the lightning. That's it. Gore said it. He didn't miss that. We got it. This time they look for the Raijin instead of that Thoth. And I really don't think the Thoth was a problem outside of the secure. I think if Trypno is confident in the Thoth and he just looks to secure a little bit more, I still didn't mind it. But I think this Raijin has proven time and time again in mid and in solo the strength of it. We've also seen Bayroneri go towards this Raijin in mid a lot. But I like that despite losing the Raijin, they don't get baited by going for the Thoth. They take this Morgan and they take this Aphrodite, who have shown a lot of strength just in last game, and then this Aphrodite just in general.
Yeah, it's something that, again, we've seen certain teams have been really favoring the Afro, and when they favor it, they tend to back it up with their play. So we'll see it there, like you said, alongside the Morgan. I actually really like it alongside an Anhur as well. Feels like, well, Afro herself can't get aggressive, super aggressive at least. You can do anything if you're an Anhur and you've got someone healing behind you, so it opens up that. But they go back to the Thoth, they get the Raijin. It feels more like the Weavers, you know, what was it? Was it last game? Maybe it was last set. We were talking a whole ton about loving their draft. I'm going to say I'm still loving their draft, and I might be loving it even more because the Scorpions locked in Shiva.
What a different pick.
Out of left field, too.
It is, yeah, it is. It's like that Nike. The first time we saw the Nike, we were like, this is not something I expected, really.
Yeah, except like Shiva's not been like good ever.
Probably since he was released and played in jungle, and then he was just nerfed because of his ult. And I think it's a little interesting to see Shiva as opposed to something like that Nike, the Sun Wukong, because we've seen those gods, we've seen them in solo. They've looked good. Shiva, what does he bring? What does Wukong bring? What does Nike bring? And it's this warrior solo has looked almost better than a lot of this mage solo in this NA bracket. I think the strength of the dive and the mid game and kind of just how a little bit more sloppy the fights are. Warriors are able to kind of exploit that a lot more than those mages are. Mages get picked off a lot easier. So I don't really mind the Shiva pick. But in laning phase, it's going to be weird. I don't think the character scales all too well, so you're going to have to play through the solo lane, try to get the Shiva ahead, and just hopefully that's enough to kind of snowball into a win. Yeah, the Weavers have a solid draft. The Scorpions are throwing us for a loop, so the question is how well they're going to do, and can they seal the deal here? The only way to find out is jump down to our casters.
Thank you so much, Gore and Inbound. We got Frog and Dime still bringing to the action on the cast. And this is a big one for the Weavers, right? I mean, this is a big set for both of these teams, but now backs up against the wall. You can't afford to lose any games, right? You had one to give away, and you maybe gave it away there in that game number 1. And now these adaptations come through, and I personally, I'm loving what they were able to come away with this in this draft. Specifically, you get Trypno back on the Thoth. I think had some great moments and looking to shore up some of those smaller moments. And then you take the Raijin away from Bayroneri is so critical for me in the draft phase.
You do give over the Aphrodite, though, and I think that's going to come up big for Geno and Migiiiiii, especially playing this Thanatos. That combination is going to be nuts. But you're totally right. The Tyrian Weavers, they grab a couple of critical targets that they really needed to lock down. Trypno looked fantastic and has even been like on point with the ultimates. I know it seemed like maybe a couple times in the last game he was a little bit off the mark, splitting the uprights, like you said. But a couple of Aegises from the Scorpions really deterred the damage from that ultimate. So the ultimates were landing pretty much on target when he needed him to be, maybe holding them a little bit later. But if Trypno can shore up the target selection and the timing, especially Frog, on objectives, like on that Fire Giant that was just a smidgen from being dead to that Trypno ultimate, it's going to look fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we got to remember 2 stolen Fire Giants in game number 1. That's not really like a standard number there. Like I don't think 2 Fire Giants normally get stolen in the average game, not in my games at least, you know. So I think the Weavers definitely looking to shore up some of those mistakes. You get a little bit of fighting here as both beads getting burned off of the carries there. GuyJ falling down quite low on the other side, but it's the right lane where the action happens first, and RelentlessOne on this Shiva pick gets taken down to start the game.
That's a great start for Layers. Layers is going to have to transition this into a lead around the map, though, because we saw Layers get a first blood on the right side of the map in game number 1. The same game the Tyrian Weavers lost. So we know that Layers starting off on this right side of the map, it's an effective play, right? We saw Layers going deep into the enemy jungle. Oh, Migiiiiii wants it so bad. As Layers is still hovering around this right-hand side, going deep in the enemy jungle, being there for buff respawns, being there to invade and to strip away experience and gold from the enemy squad. But we also know how game number 1 ended. So Layers has to transition this in a similar way to the early game of game number 1, and then the rest of the squad's got to be on his heels.
I think this right-hand side, a big focus for Migiiiiii, and I think for the Scorpions in general. But Migiiiiii, remembering last game, getting first blooded under that tier 2 tower, you maybe lose the one-on-one fight.
Not again.
If you're the Thanatos. For RelentlessOne, off the mark, you're able to dodge out, rather, that second ability. And this time, Migiiiiii is over here ready for this, and he's got the power spikes as well. Blink in from both the solo jungle combo, and Layers maybe under pressure here, trying to find the last bit of damage as Layers, but the mana is not there for the abilities. And now you've got the rotation from Bayro, 1 to fall, 2 maybe looking for it as Layers down as well, and the blue buff defense is successful.
Almost looked like it was going to go the way of the Tyrian Weavers there, because we saw Migiiiiii and RelentlessOne target split. So RelentlessOne goes after Layers, Migiiiiii goes after Remakami. All of the damage is getting split up, which means no one target is dying. Fortunately for the Scorpions and unfortunately for the Weavers, Remakami dashes away, which just leaves Layers between 2, and Migiiiii's like, oh, I guess I'll turn around and hit the Camazotz now. And then also, unfortunately for the Tyrian Weavers, Layers and Remakami completely out of mana. We saw that last ability from Remakami completely drain the tank. Smash down there from the Thanatos. Scythe doesn't even need it.
That damage is instantaneous, it feels like, from the Scorpions. And you get the answer back, the look from Migiiiiii on that right-hand side. And this Thanatos pick, I was going to ask you about it, that's exactly what you want to be doing with it. You get a little bit more of an early game pick. And talk to me about this build, this pickup. He goes for the Carapace Shard in that first slot of the relic. Hold that thought, though. NotGeno looking to be under some pressure on the left-hand side. The pillars get dropped, and the Aphrodite gets collapsed on Layers into the batter to hell. This is I don't know, man. It's just pretty dangerous under that tier 1 tower. So he will get away with his life, but you take down the purple buff, you take down the support on the left side.
Well, we know Layers loves to go deep. And we know Layers isn't going to give up the fight. So no surprise there to see Layers go crazy ham. Geno is going to fall, though. The Tyrian Weavers scrape back a little bit. Migiiiii's looking at Trypno here. Nice silence. A little bit off the mark there with the scythe, though, unfortunately. It is worth touching on the Carapace shard, though, because it is a little bit of a strange pickup, right? You have some options when you're Thanatos. Could pick up a couple different shards. Does end up going with the Carapace. And it's actually an interesting pickup because it gives you more damage and your teammates more damage, right? It steals magical and physical. Yeah, it steals the protections because RelentlessOne's health is getting stolen.
Yeah, he's getting it back, though. He's stealing it back from the gods there on the battleground. Takes out a little bit of that healing. But look at this focus around the blue buff. You get a 3-man rotation here from both sides. Geno and Promise over here on this right-hand side. Migiiiiii, though, on time for that buff and will make sure that RelentlessOne is able to grab that one. I think, you know, you get a couple of these traded back kills, and I thought we were done. I thought RelentlessOne was okay over in that lane, but Layers sticking around. It might be because of this blue buff on his own side, as there's so much posturing on this right-hand side, but nobody may be ready to full-on commit here until up into the air. Promise needs to drop down a little bit lower, and he won't fall into the execute range, but he will fall 6 feet under as the elephant goes to the gray screen. Layers looking to dive in and finds the 1v1 perhaps as the taunts come through from the drums, but the damage is there, and Layers is able to trade one back, but loses his life in the process. A 2-for-2 trade across the board as Bayro now under pressure in the mid lane and looking to make it out alive. Needs to dodge it out, but gives a double kill to Trypno. And for all the posturing, it's the Weavers who come out and trade.
And it all starts with a simple little blue buff. Invade Frog. Bayroneri, or excuse me, Migiiiiii and Geno have a great level 6, right? Like when this thing kicked off, RelentlessOne was joining the fray as well. It's going to have a little bit more in the tank as a warrior, whereas Remakami has to tune up a little bit with some items. The fight looked pretty good, right? I'm always going to give the edge to a Thanatos early on. It was just a nice rotation there from the Tyrian Weavers. Remakami shows up, Layers is already there, Trypno runs around as well. Promise does fall, but he bought so much time by being so tanky early on. The execute threshold was actually huge as well, buying a little bit more time. The rest of the squad rotates in. Nice cleanup there from the Weavers.
Tyrian Weavers looking to maybe focus on continuing this lead here early on in this one, because this feels like somewhat of a similar start that they got off to in game number 1, but maybe it's on the left-hand side where they look to do it. Migiiiiii and GuyJ combine to take down Promise, and Scorpions get back the kill lead and continue to keep this gold lead close. Only about 500 separating these two squads, and experience very close as well. 1 level for both the solo and jungle, but you see a little bit of, you know, maybe half level lead over in that dual lane, I think, for GuyJ on the other side, right? But I mean, I feel like we've talked so much about the solo lane in terms of these fights as Layers, I think, one ability steals away that blue buff. That feels a little bit bad if you're RelentlessOne. We've talked so much about these fights. We haven't talked about this pick at all. I mean, this Shiva comes out of nowhere for me. Why are we seeing this warrior in the solo lane?
I mean, we know RelentlessOne loves pressure. Fantastic on warriors, been doing it forever. I think it's a little bit of a switch up here for the Scorpions. They take down game number 1, and RelentlessOne's actually going to play kind of a similar role as he did in game number 1. Sure, it was the Morgan Le Fay, it was a mage, which is certainly the flavor of the month. But this Shiva has so much CC and so much survivability in that ultimate, right? You got some great movement as well. You're going to create so much space. You're going to allow Migiiiiii and Guy to do pretty much kind of the same role as game number 1. So even though the pick has changed and the composition has been switched up here for the Aaru Scorpions, their strategy and game plan coming into game number 2 is pretty much the same.
I think the warrior will definitely give them maybe a little bit more space, but I mean, Inbound talked about it on the desk. It was like 42,000 damage coming through the solo lane Morgan Le Fay in game number 1, which was a very big difference from the mage across the way in the same lane. This time around, we'll have to see how that matchup continues through the later stages of the game. And this was a late one in game number 1. 35 minutes or so, we saw quite a few fire giants. And we're getting around that time where it was these objectives that started being pulled by the Weavers in game number 1. And this time around, they have a very similar ability to do so. It feels like this final judgment still available for Trypno. And so I'm wondering, I mean, where do you want to see the Weavers try and start that up again? Do you want to see them try and start to contest those again, knowing that they have the secure advantage?
They have the secure advantage for sure. And they also have a couple other tools that make objectives very attractive to the Tyrian Weavers. Promise's ultimate, those pillars, those Dharmic pillars that can be dropped from the heavens, is going to A, do a ton of damage to objectives, and B, create tons of space to push out the Aaru Scorpions to ensure the Tyrian Weavers can secure the objectives. I think what it's really going to hinge on, though, is InMyZen getting a couple more items online, right? Xbalanque, one of those characters where you love to itemize and get to a huge power spike. Anhur, something like that, has a little bit more power and penetration in the kit, can do things a little bit earlier on. InMyZen wants to get these Zevs gloves, wants to get this Executioners, maybe get a Dominance or one more item online, then start really chunking down some objectives.
Trypno taking quite a bit of damage here in the mid lane. It's sure enough in that execute threshold, so I think Migiiiii's going to be aware that he's sticking around on the map. And I think as you come around this 11-minute, 12-minute mark, you start to think even more about these fights on the left-hand side of the map, right? Just around these oracles, you're seeing a 3-man grouping from the Scorpions. They know how important that vision is. But ultimate trades on the right-hand side as the healing will keep RelentlessOne topped up there, at least enough to make it back to base. Maybe you start to think about getting these soul laners involved. I mean, is this warrior reason enough to try and bring RelentlessOne over a little bit earlier on? Maybe start your fighting a little bit earlier for the Scorpions?
It's probably still going to wait until Remakami rotates as well. One of the benefits for RelentlessOne here on this warrior is that warriors can pick up that teleport in the solo lane, whereas if you're a mage in the solo lane, you're pretty much relegated to the Beads Aegis or Beads Defensive Relic. As a warrior, you can be a little bit more aggressive in your relic selection, pick up that teleport, and be able to work around the map a little bit more. You certainly do want to take advantage of the early game power here from Migiiiiii and GuyJ. It's Migiiiiii and Layers going toe-to-toe here.
Wow, yeah, looking for the 1v1 in the jungle. Maybe feeling a little bit better about the 1v1 this time around as the Thanatos over the Susano, but you'll burn the ultimate there from Migiiiiii. And meanwhile, Layer's able to hold on to his, and maybe that's a small window of opportunity. We talked about the Weavers maybe looking for this objective play. If you're the Scorpions, we saw them have a very slow early game in game number 1, where they tried to use that macro play to their advantage, just wait out for those late game team fights. What do you look at as like the minute mark where they want to start to draw that line and like be ready to take these 4-on-4, 5-on-5 fights with their composition?
Now. The minute is now. Geno's always going to have that ultimate available, right? The scaling doesn't matter for straight up not dying, right? Geno presses 4, doesn't matter whether it's at minute 5 or minute 35. You're just not going to die no matter what. Migiiiii's only going to scale. Oh, hold on a second here as the Dharmic pillars are dropped.
Yeah, you want that ultimate there if you're Geno onto Bayro. But luckily, Final Judgment not in range. They don't get the entire kit dropped onto Bayroneri, so he's able to make it around that corner there. The Dharmic Pillars, you lose a couple of ultimates there, including your secure ability if you're Trypno, right? Eyes on that if you want to continue thinking about these objectives. But in 13 minutes in, both of these teams look very content just to farm up for a little bit until they get even more items online. Right now, a lot of these players thinking about what their third item spikes are going to come through.
Really eyes on this Thanatos in Migiiiiii. It's only going to become a little bit less and less effective as time goes on. Layers is going to scale immaculately, and sure, Thanatos, it's not like Thanatos loses effectiveness in the late game, but it's reason that the community kind of perceives Thanatos as an early game god, right? The scaling is fantastic, and you're always going to have CC from the ultimate as well, and the execute threshold is phenomenal going into the late game. But I'd like to see the Aaru Scorpions take advantage of the Thanatos and the penetration that's baked into Anhur's kit. You can rotate the Anhur to the Gold Fury. You can bring over Bayroneri as well. It looks exactly like what the Scorpions are maybe looking to do here on this left-hand side, and you get a lot done.
A little bit of grouping once again around those oracles. That vision on the Gold Fury, such a high prioritization here from the Scorpions as the dual lane continues to make their presence known on the left-hand side. I'm looking at these support builds and seeing a couple of differences, right? That first item coming through, you get the cooldown for the Aphrodite the Sav coming through, both prioritizing physical defense. I mean, what are the differences there in that second item spike?
Well, the sovereignty is a direct relationship to RelentlessOne picking up a warrior in the solo lane, right? We've seen mages be picked so often over there that supports can kind of prioritize maybe a little bit more magical defense or a little bit more utility, but here Promise going straight into the sovereignty to provide physical protection to himself and the rest of the squad to combat RelentlessOne. Tyrian Weavers combating the Pyromancer, and RelentlessOne the only member of the Scorpions present.
Picked up and knocked down. This is opening the window though on the left-hand side, and nobody from the Weavers is able to get there. So for all the talking we do about objectives and securability, it's no fight to be had. It's an objective trade there for the two squads. And now asking the question around the tier 1 tower, they'll knock it down quick enough, and despite a couple of ultimate trades, only Trypno falling below that 50% HP marker. I mean, is that something that you, I mean, who comes out on top in that trade?
I like the Pyromancer pickup there because you get the Runic Bomb, which you saw the Tyrian Weavers use to great effect there. They take out a tower and, they do take out a tower using that bomb. It's already been put to good work. Sure, it's 16 minutes, a Gold Fury is nice, but at the end of the day, you want pressure on the map, right? The whole point of playing a game of Conquest in SMITE is to knock down towers, knock down Phoenixes, and take out the Titan at the end of the day. Pyromancer is allowing you to do that more efficiently through that Runic Bomb. So I like that pickup there from the Weavers. I like the stuff after the stuff by grabbing a tower as well. You balloon that gold lead just a little bit more. You got some nice level padding in solo lane. Remakami can move around the map a little bit more smoothly as well. So I like the pickup there from the Tyrian Weavers.
A slow game thus far, and maybe a similar pacing to what we've seen in game number 1. I think you look at the kills and maybe similar numbers there, but a lot less action because both teams seem pretty content to make it to the late game. They were like, hey, we tried to fight you a little bit in the early game in game 1. It didn't really go anybody's way. So we're just going to chill. We're just going to relax, get our items online, and come to you in this late game. But I mean, even through that, the Weavers getting themselves off to a little bit of a lead, a little bit of an experience lead, I think, in some areas as well. That solo jungle still holding on. But now both teams feeling a little bit more comfortable to fight, and you get a 5-man rotation here for both squads around just the second beacon spawn. And thus far, it's the Weavers that have the pressure on that one. Just anybody looking for an excuse to find a good engagement, find a good way in to start a fight here. You see maybe the hesitation from the Scorpions there, maybe caused by that earlier tier 1 tower going down. They did not have that retreat point to feel as safe fighting into that.
It's a great point, Frog. No retreat point, and my eyes go to RelentlessOne's relics as well. You still had 10 seconds left on the blink, and that last squabble we saw between the Scorpions and the Weavers, it was RelentlessOne stepping forward, blinking in, and finding a great pull on the Tyrian Weavers. Promise drops the ultimate there, doesn't find much for it. Woo!
Great ultimate from Geno, though, and you immune the Thoth ultimate coming through layers. Trying to find the dive, thought they might have the damage after the fact, but
wow.
I think Layers maybe thanking his lucky stars that he didn't dive too far into that. Migiiiiii would have been there on the counter engage. Now you start to see how the fights are going to start off. I've loved from Promise thus far. I mean, typically you think of Ganesha as a slower pick, a counter engage pick, but he has not been hesitating at all in just being willing to drop these Dharmic pillars anyway.
Nah, man, true elephant enjoyers know that those pillars do like the most damage in the game. It's like one of the highest scaling, the amount of damage that you can do with those, especially like you remember back in the day with Nuwa and Fenrir when Nuwa had that ultimate, you drop them and then you pick someone up in Fenrir's mouth and you just shake them around like a dog and it like shows up as like 8,000 damage on the kill screen. Everyone who really knows the intricacies of Ganesh, calling you out here, Frog, knows that those Dharmic pillars do insane amount of damage. And of course, you've got the slows, you got space creation tools as well. I also like Promise's use. And like we've reached the point here where solo laners are rotating out of lane, Pyromancer's respawning, Gold Fury's going to be up. These teams can't keep splitting these objectives forever. Eventually, you're going to have to step up and take a fight somewhere.
Well, Pyromancer might be the play here. Weavers, they take it down before the Scorpions get a chance. And they do it so fast that the Scorpions can't answer back with the trade. They weren't ready for the Oni Fury to be taken out. They weren't in position for it. So now, I mean, they're heading over there, and yes, no final judgment available means that it won't be a guaranteed secure here for the Weavers, but Aaru Scorpions, this will be a much closer fight. Oni Fury picked up, taken down a half HP as promised, still looking to drop that ultimate. And just the threat of having that close, you get the back off from the Scorpions. Migiiiiii alone in the front, gets taken down before he can make it into the sky. And the Weavers, the positioning is fantastic, and they're looking for the chase, the dash in from Remakami, the damage there for Layers, and they're trying to push forward. Geno forced into the ultimate, but the damage is there on the backside, and the support will end up falling. A great answer back for the Weavers, and now they've got the pressure on the objective.
This one's about a third HP. Heal's not available, baked into that ultimate. Bayroneri is here, no ultimate available as well. But we saw crazy steals in game number 1, Frog. Bayroneri around the wall.
Looking for something. He can't even get close enough, though. And the Remakami zoning is great there. The Tyrian Weavers, they take down the Pyromancer, and it's that quick thinking, the quick decision making. Just hop on that as soon as it spawns, and then they're able to be there in defense of the Oni Fury as well. And I mean, how does that all go so awry? Maybe Migiiiiii stepping too far forward on his own.
Yeah, man, originally you look at the Tyrian Weavers, they snag the Pyromancer using the Trypno ultimate, and you think, okay, Trypno doesn't have an ult. This might be a good spot for the Scorpions to either try for the Gold Fury, look for an engagement, something. This might be a good fight. But if you start peeling back the layers and looking a little bit deeper, if you start looking a little bit deeper, the Scorpions didn't have as good of a fight as you might have anticipated. They were behind items, whole entire items to the Tyrian Weavers. Relics squarely went the way of the Weavers as well. I mean, Bayro didn't have a single relic to his name. A couple other pairs of beads were down as well. Sure, you have a little bit of an ultimate advantage, but when you're down in itemization, when you're down in relic usage, and when you have a phenomenal re-engagement like Promise just shown, catching 4 people in those Dharmic pillars, insane engagement there from Promise paying dividends.
This pacing, though, different from what we saw in game 1. You've got the final judgment, looking for the secure, and it's there. The Weavers take down the Fire Giant, but look for Migiiiiii in the air. He has to find a target if they want to chase, but they're not in position to do so. And that's once again the Weavers with the quick decision making, and they've got FG on 5.
Frog, I'm going to be a little bit pessimistic here for the Aaru Scorpions. The Tyrian Weavers composition is crafted as such that when they have established a lead and a nice pace of game, right, they have momentum in their corner, there's very little the Aaru Scorpions can do proactively to crawl back into this game. Sure, it's only a 5,000 gold lead, but I think that's belying a little bit of the state of the game. It's squarely in the favor of the Tyrian Weavers here. They have jungle control. I like their composition deep into the late game as well. I mean, Geno's dropping low to just Trypno and Layers. Migiiiiii gets straight up deleted in the meantime, by the way, and Bayroneri and Geno looking tasty.
They're still on the chase. Bayroneri gets the ultimate, but I mean, he does not survive the batter to hell. A double kill for Layers, and you see the volatility for this Camazotz, the damage coming through on the Weavers. And I mean, you might be right. They've got 1 Fire Giant 21 minutes in, and with those 2 picks, a wave in mid and in left, they're looking to threaten both birds right here. Trypno, the dive coming through from RelentlessOne, but all the while the left Phoenix falls. Geno falls down, and it's a collapse for the Scorpions. The mid Phoenix still under pressure here. Is InMyZen looking to finish it off with a couple of autos. Oh my goodness! RelentlessOne survives on sub 50 HP. And you can see the pressure that they have.
Tyrian Weavers want to keep this thing rolling. You saw Trypno and a couple other members drop pretty low there in that Phoenix engagement. You just stick around, you let your front line do frontline stuff, you grab the left Phoenix, you grab the middle Phoenix. Fire Giant's going to be down for a little bit while longer. Fury's going to come back online, but notice those Titans. They're shoving down the left-hand side of the map right now. Looks like the Tyrian Weavers are not going to take advantage of their own Titan being unchained. Your Scorpions, actually, they might have caught a little bit of a break there with the Stygian Beacon unleashing the Titans, because it meant the Tyrian Weavers couldn't just walk in and end, even if they had found a team wipe or something.
I think you're sort of forced to slow down and maybe start thinking about this next fire giant that's going to spawn. But there's still a lot left for them to get. Primal Fury is going to spawn, and this Titan obviously going to give a little bit of XP and gold to the rest of your team. You start thinking about this next fire giant fight, and the Aaru Scorpions, this is not a good spot to be in. You mentioned how solid the late game composition is here from the Weavers. So many tools to have a solid siege, the range from the Thoth. I mean, it feels, it's hard to say 99%er, right? Because that's a big word, especially with how we saw the Scorpions fight back in game number 1. But I mean, if you are the Scorpions, what type of win conditions are you still holding on to? And I was going to say, how do you get back into this game? But maybe it's not losing your hunter in the mid lane. You get a trade at least because Bayroneri takes down Trypno. But Layers is on a rampage, and Remakami adds to the tally. Migiiiiii needs one more hit to die, but he makes it back to the base, and RelentlessOne survives as well. Somehow, you've got 2 members alive, but I don't know if it's enough. The Titan is falling down low. You've got the runic bomb, the fire minions pushing in, and in 25 minutes, the Tyrian Weavers take game number 2.
Yeah, who needs fire giant, right, Frog? Who needs to wait for that to respawn? Who needs to ward and slow play the game when you can just find a kill in the middle lane, walk down, and hit the Titan enough times until it has 0 HP? Why not just do that?
No, and that's, you know what? Why don't the SPL teams think of that, man? I mean, that's
I've been pitching that idea for years, since
just
season
kill the Titan?
6. Yes,
dude.
Like, I don't more is you walk down middle lane and hit the Titan enough times until it falls down.
That's
champions.
I can't believe. Yeah, I mean, we could form a team here. I think that's a pretty groundbreaking idea. We push to game number 3 here. The Tyrian Weavers bounce back, they adapt. We've got to send those teams to the drawing board, see what they can bring in for game number 3 after the break.
Met your friend the other day. Heard you've been trying to reach me. Good luck with that. I threw my phone into the pool. There's no reason for your feelings. You knew the rules. You better run for your life and sleep with one eye open. How do I feel? I feel fine. it's over. I know it's been a while, haven't talked since July. You've been on my mind, don't hang up. I know it's been some time since I called you mine. You've been on my mind, don't hang up. Maybe I'm a little bit jealous, haven't told my friends we ended it. Yeah, I know that it is wrong. Maybe it's a little bit selfish calling you up when I'm wasted, when I know that you moved on. Is she in your arms right now? Tell me, is she gonna stay the night? Tell me, is she in your arms right now? Is she in your arms tonight? Like I used to be. Talk things through, tell me what to do. Don't give up after all that we've been through. I give my all to you, just tell me what to do. Don't give up on me, yeah. Maybe I'm a little bit jealous, haven't.
Well, now things are all tied up and heating up in set 2, just as they did set 1. Weavers are able to pull this one back. Stay alive for now. Question is going to be game 3 before we get to that game 2. And it is an important win for them, right? To not only maintain it, but they had to work a little bit to get there. Eventually they got there and, you know, give 10, 15-ish minutes, right? And then suddenly you get to take off.
Yeah, and it was another pretty slow early game. I think this is probably one of the slower early games we've seen in NA. And then the mid-game happened, and this Thanatos kind of just disappeared, and layers on the Camazotz just started to pop off, pick up a bunch of kills. But there really isn't too much to talk about, I think, for the first 15 minutes minimum. I think it was a little bit of back and forth, but nobody really got a nice little lead. And then it was just a fight here, a fight there, win for the Weavers, slowly snowball it a little bit harder, and then the game was just kind of over after a couple fights on the map. And I don't think I want to see Migiiiiii on this Thanatos again. I think it's more so what the team needs from him, more so than him playing an exceptionally bad Thanatos. I don't think he played bad. I don't think there was really an opportunity for him to do too much. I liked seeing him on the Susano, and I really like seeing his Naja, and there's a reason people ban it. But I think he needs to look elsewhere, somewhere where he can be more of an engage god than a hyper carry, like clean-up, pentakill type of god. I think that fits the Scorpions a little bit better. And we talked about the Shiva on desk. It wasn't a horrible Shiva game, but I think there was a better plan for a different warrior, or even giving him the Morgan again and picking like a different mid laner. 14k damage, not the end of the world. It's not like a warrior is going to be dumping out the damage. But watching the team fights, the Shiva wasn't as relevant as we've seen RelentlessOne in previous games.
Yeah, and that's, I think, really the biggest thing. You know, when your best case scenario, and maybe that wasn't the best case scenario, but for Shiva, maybe your best case scenario is like, hey, I can be somewhat impactful, maybe kind of impactful.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Versus most games where it's like, hey, I'm just like, I'm actively just trying my best to not be a detriment.
Yeah.
I feel like RelentlessOne, you know, like you said, we've seen a lot of impactful games on other gods, so maybe a change up there. And that one was one that I remember being kind of floored to see in general when picks and bans. So we'll see if they go back to it, but maybe not that one as we jump into Game 3. Again, life on the line for both of these teams, Weavers and Scorpions. Whoever wins goes to Group C, joins our other 3 teams, the Sages, the Wardens, and the Storm. Whoever loses is just out, and they would then join, in that case, the Valkyries, Oblivion, and Cat Club, who are waiting for, I guess, their 4th friend out of the tournament. Scorpions, first pick, first ban in this game. And they're going to get rid of the Poseidon. They're going to get rid of the Camazotz. And they're going to get rid of the Thoth. Kukulkan, Athena, and the Raijin banned out on the other side. And so things mostly where you would expect it, but the Opwash left open. Opwash locked in.
A couple other interesting characters with what the Weavers will do. Aphrodite, Chernobog are 2 available characters. Chernobog already locked in, done deal. Best available hunter. They want to get him right away. And they go for this Morgan this time. So a little bit of a shift up here with... We've seen Morgan on the Scorpion side the past couple games. This time it's going over to the Weavers. A little bit of flex potential still there. Will it go mid? Will it go solo? But that's what I'm excited to see. Migiiiiii on this Naja is probably one of the happiest picks I could have seen him on. I am very excited to see him on this Naja again because he's looked fantastic on
Especially since it was banned out the first couple of games,
yeah, it's
right?
been banned out for a bunch of games.
Maybe the glorious part, like when we've talked about this, when your first pick and the Weavers were for games 1 and 2, you have that leeway of like, yeah, well, we're going to ban one of your gods because then we get one of the good gods because you only have 3 bans. And this time, oh, your second pick, you got to ban all the good gods because otherwise they get the good gods. So I like that. The Khepri catches me a little off guard this early, I should say, right? I'm not unsure about Khepri. It just seems like there's maybe some other options instead. They don't go for it. Vulcan, Scylla get banned out, so nothing too crazy over there. Rat and Thor, though, which maybe could have been higher prio. With the Naja, I guess you don't have to worry too much about it. Baron gets locked in, so you get another mage. But with the Ganesh there, probably going somewhere else.
Yeah, and I agree with this Khepri pick maybe being a little bit early because as soon as they see that, you see the Ganesh lock in, which is a very strong pick into the Khepri.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to play Khepri into this Baron also. And a little bit of a... I don't want to say a surprise because I think Layers can pilot this Thana and he can be that hyper carry player. But when we just saw the last game, the Thana not really do too much, I think it's a little then bold to then lock in this Thanatos and say, like, I'm going to be doing so much more when, as you said, there was an opportunity to go that Thor or that Rat even earlier and maybe even wait on that Ganesh, but they opt to get that Ganesh and then they go for this last pick Thana. And when you play a character like this, you say it all the time, about a 40% chance you do nothing and you lose the game, 20% chance nothing really happens, and 40% chance... You have it's something like that.
If you put the numbers in the right place, you know exactly what he's trying to say. I mean, think about it. Last game, non-factor. Yesterday we saw a 17-3 game, right? Yep. So Thanatos can do a little bit of everything. The question is, what kind of game are we getting from him here? It's do or die for the Weavers and the Scorpions. We'll find out how it shakes out with our casters.
Do or die, Weavers or Scorpions. Which one is going to continue on and which one is going to head home? Frog and Dimes here to bring you the action. And I love that little end of the desk segment. You just got to put the numbers in the right place, Dimes. That's really it. That's, you know, you just got to take the numbers and put them in the right place, and I think you'll take the win. I think that's what it is.
Switching around my loan payments versus the number in my bank account right now. Like if I flip-flop those, life would be unbelievable.
Dude, it'd be man. It'd be so. You just got to put the numbers in the right place. Well, drafts come through.
Frog?
Yeah, tell me about it.
The drafts. It's like you were reading my mind. The 1, 2, 3 from the Scorpions, dude. That was filthy to watch go down. Puch, Khepri, Naja for Migiiiiii. Like, I got a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach for the Weavers.
Yeah, it's man, I like Migiiiiii on the Naja, and that's about it. That's the analysis right there, Dimes. I like Migiiiiii on the Naja a lot because my man makes an immense amount of space on this pick. He just continues to be a playmaker, and I think he was a playmaker on the Susano in game number 1. I think maybe he struggled a little bit to do so on the Thanatos in game number 2, but I mean, this Naja pick, being able to switch up the picks and mans and go back to it, and he's got the Khepri as well to help him out in surviving. There's a lot that you can start to do here, but even before we get there, Layers, it's the blink through the wall and the pressure onto Barrow and Migiiiiii in the mid 2v2. Maybe you have to wait a little bit because, man, Thanatos has a lot of pressure, but I don't know. I still like the jungle matchup for him.
Dude, that sash from Migiiiiii was nuts. I think the sash from Migiiiiii literally just saved Bayroneri's life. Layers would have continued in on the dive, hit a couple auto attacks, maybe Scythe comes back online, maybe it doesn't, but Migiiiiii locks down the Thanatos long enough that Bear was able to just walk it out of there. Opwash, is such an inherently unsafe pick just because there's no movement tools, right? You don't have a dash, you don't have a leap, you don't have anything to get out of dodge. All you have is pure damage and a whole bunch of good luck. And there, Migiiiiii coming in clutch for the mid laner.
NotGeno under a little bit of pressure on this left-hand side. We've seen sparks in this duel, and I think to start both, or all 3 games at this point is InMyZen now. No dash available, looking for the little bit of damage, but that Chel comes through as well, and GuyJ forced to burn the beads on the back end of it. So once again, both hunters getting a little bit low for comfort's sake on that left-hand side. And I mean, you know where my eyes are going. Immediately dives over to that right-hand side as these blue buffs spawn. And it's the Agni solo versus Agni versus Baron matchup, a classic matchup, of course, that we see all the time. And as you know, Agni getting a little bit of that pressure. It looks like, no, I have no idea, dude. What is this matchup that I'm watching?
Yeah, it really takes me back to season 2 when Agni and Baron were the preeminent solo laners. We saw that matchup all the time. Obviously, I'm joking. No, we saw Julio take this Agni into the solo lane consistently back when Julio was running out the EU championships just a couple of weeks ago, and it looked phenomenal. You have so much space creation, right? You got great movement around the map as well with the dash. Against someone like this Baron, don't know if you're going to be able to 100 to 0, right? Because you could drop a couple bombs, flame wave out, and then Remakami is able to heal up a lot of that damage, or maybe even respond with the life of the party for some CC immunity if you get the stun off for the Agni. But crucially, you can drop Remakami down low enough that Migiiiiii has great follow-up, probably put the finishing touches on a kill, or you can flip it and reverse, and Migiiiiii starts with the sash, sends Remakami up into the air into the ultimate, and then Remakami drops down to seeing about 3 comets hit into his face. So either way you want to run it up, it's a pretty good look here for the Scorpions. Flip it around on the other side, and it's going to be tough to cast RelentlessOne under pressure.
Into the air there, and Migiiiiii looking for the last bit of damage, but you land in the corpse field, and you get taken down. Bayro on the board first, grabbing first blood for the Scorpions.
You're going to see that approximately 90 times this game. Migiiiii's going to send someone to the air, and they're going to come down to either a bunch of bombs from the Agni, or they're going to land in a giant field of corpses and go screaming at you from Bayroneri. There's like this thing, all right, within our casting team, Frog, and I'm sure you know my feelings about Apwash. And every single week for like months and months, all of our producers are like, man, I hope they lock in Apwash just so Dimes goes on a rant, just so he gets upset, blah, blah, blah. Finally, I'm casting a game where Posh gets locked in, and I can't rant about him because it's a good pick now. Like, remember when Posh was so bad and it was like you could just dunk on him? Now Posh is incredible, and let me tell you why. That field has so much damage, so much slow, it completely shuts down a team fight. The corpse explosion does approximately 80% of your HP, and if you get sent into the Windfire Wheels from Migiiiiii, you can't do anything about it. You can't time the corpse explosion. You can't get out of the field. You drop down into slowness, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of dead bodies explode around you, and you just die. And the Aaru Scorpions are going to repeat that over and over and over.
Yeah, I think maybe Remakami is on that very mindset right there. He does not want to be pulled into the air, and man, he wasn't able. He tried his best to not get pulled into the air, but oh my goodness, the tower shot comes through, and he's at least able to take one with him, but he'll lose the blue buff, and he'll lose his life under the tier 1 tower there. And you get a little bit more pressure for RelentlessOne in this Agni solo, and I think Migiiiii's willing to do that, right? He'll put his life on the line all day for that.
You're a Naja, like you're kind of relegated to a glass cannon where you go in, you send someone up into the air using the ultimate, and you smash down, and then you throw your hands in the air. Like whatever happens next, happens next. Either I'm going to die, the Weavers are going to pile onto me, and Migiiiii's going to go to the afterlife, or the rest of my squad's going to follow up, and a bunch of people from the Tyrian Weavers are going to be in the grayscale for the next 20 seconds, right? If you're Migiiiiii, you've kind of already accepted by locking in the Naja pick that you're not going to survive a lot of the time. And Frog, that's exactly where Geno comes in. Scarab's Blessing gives a second life to this Naja, who's going to die consistently by putting themselves in a bad spot.
Yeah, I wonder if you're Migiiiiii, right? You're getting into the head of the Naja here. What kind of build are you looking for? Is it something like the hybrid build to stay alive, or because you have that second life, do you just rocket full damage?
Yeah, I think you rip it, dude. I think you build full pin, full damage, maybe throw in a little crit in there if you're feeling cheeky and fun. I mean, look at what Migiiiii's doing right now, playing so aggressively, knowing that Geno is there for backup. I think that mentality is going to serve him well into the mid game, into the late game, thinking about what build he's going to run. You just run full damage. You run full glass cannon, 100-0. Either you kill someone immediately or you get them low enough that the rest of your squad can follow up. And then you just kind of have to cross your fingers that Geno's there with the ultimate to save your life.
I think it'll be a question of how he wants to play in this mid game. We see that second item come through. Migiiiiii, though, already the one to start that pressure off. And you can see how much pressure he can bring just by throwing out that sash. You get the ultimate from Trypno there, as Bayro so far had a little bit of that pressure advantage. And maybe we can talk about that mid matchup, right? I was going to question that pick a little bit because you lose a lot of the safety, but man, you want it here. That damage already dropped down into the field for Layers, and the final tick comes through. That's the second time for Layers that you get dropped down into the corpse field. And I mean, you go blink first with Layers, you don't have that beads. How do you avoid that?
You don't.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what do you either, okay, you have two options if you're Layers. One, you travel back in time, you create a time machine, and you get beads instead of blink, which is absolutely what Layers should have gone for. I understand it's a Thanatos. I understand you need to get going. Layers hasn't gotten going. Layers hasn't used this blink effectively. Saw a blink on the left-hand side, may have been the only one this game. You look at your enemy opponents, or your enemy's team that you're squaring up against. Geno, CC, Bayroneri, CC. Migiiii's literal identity is going to revolve around CC. Like, you have to snag the beats here. Or Layers' other option is as soon as you see Migiiiii sash, like the second the frame goes off, you head into your ultimate. Guess what? Migiiiiii might not connect with the sash, might have missed. You just waste your ultimate. Migiiiiii might not follow up with the ultimate. You just wasted ultimate on a sash. Layers is going to have to start the fight by using the CC immune ultimate to get out of danger, which means there's going to be no execute. It's not great for just damage. Sure, you could use the Thanatos ultimate for CC, but that's not how you want to begin an engagement if you're the Tyrian Weavers. So Layers has no options available right now to him until you have a second relic at level 12, which is 3 levels away.
Yeah, it's a dangerous 3 levels if you're Layers. You want to be making sure that either you're in first on these fights, you're utilizing that blink, because I mean, I think he's going to be more okay with a 1-for-1. If you're dying for a carry, perhaps you be okay with it being taken into the air. But I mean, starting to think once again, that 10, 11, 12-minute mark as we reach that mid-game, how do you want to play into these objectives? And this time around, there's no huge secure ultimate to speak of, right? And so the Tyrian Weavers already gonna have to start thinking about how they want to play around those objectives differently in this game 3.
Sure, there's no big secure ultimate, right? There's no one big cannon you can fire and completely lock down an objective. But Bayroneri's got the closest thing in that corpse explosion. You stack 3 corpses, and you hit that 2 button, and all of a sudden objectives are disappearing in the blink of an eye, right? That is doing a ton of damage, and you can time it up appropriately. Remakami forced the ultimate there. Adam Migiiiiii gives you one in return as well. Life of the party going to be down. Luckily, though, Remakami did go into the beads early on, as there's a square up here in the jungle.
Wow, Migiiiiii under pressure here, but the up down from Layers is going to take down the Naja before he can get the ultimate. The heal, though, from the side is beautiful, and the silence is there as well. Zen teleports in. The living nightmares, great from the Chernobog to help out the team. And Layers able to make it out of there just with the 1 pick on a Migiiiiii.
Dude, that was promise all day long. Layers was dead to rights there. You come up, you come down. RelentlessOne is ready for you, right? Promise, phenomenal rotation, was already hovering around the middle lane. Incredible lockdown there to keep RelentlessOne busy just long enough and CC just long enough that Layers was able to walk out, saving the life of the jungler there. That was easily a 1-for-1. Promise makes it a 1-for-0.
Yeah, big pick there, and I think that's what you were talking about, right? You get into the ultimate early if you're Layers, and you suddenly you don't get taken up into the sky. You go up into the sky. It's on your own accord. That's the difference. You still end up in the sky. I don't know how that, like, that's we like the sky, I guess, right? It's fun to be up in the sky. It's just it needs to be on your own. It needs to be on your own terms.
The biggest thing there, though, is that layers went up into the air, sure, but it was already when there was an execute target, right? Migiiiiii had dropped low enough already that layers had someone to come back down onto. It's when layers goes up to the air just to use the CC that all of a sudden you're in this no man's land where there's no one to execute, there's no one to crash down, there's no one to CC, and you've just wasted an ultimate for essentially nothing. Luckily, Migiiiiii low enough, execute goes off. 0-2 and 3 here early on for the Scorp jungler.
Now, beacon spawn goes down, right? Have to start thinking about how these mid-game fights are going to come through, because I think this is maybe the first game where the Scorpions they're the ones with the small lead, right? Still not huge, and we've seen that in games 1 and 2, right? That about 2,000 gold in favor, but it's always been in favor of the Weavers, and the Scorpions have sort of been trying to find ways in the macro gameplay to see where they can answer back. But this time, though, 4-man grouping, Migiiiiii already taken down a little bit with that scythe, but you can see how much damage can drop at the flip of a coin right there, right? Just in the blink of an eye, you get all of the damage, and it's so much pressure around Bayroneri on this mid pick. Sure, he's not the safest pick, but the amount of raw damage output you get from an op wash in the mid lane cannot be understated.
We also got a good look at what RelentlessOne's going to be trying to do in these mid-game engagements.
Whoa. Oh my goodness. Into the air and InMyZen ultimates as well. Blink in from layers. Everybody wants to get engaged, but it's Promise maybe under the most pressure here. The CC comes through, and it's enough for the damage. Migiiiiii finds the first kill in the fight, and Remakami maybe next on the chopping block. Bayro on a killing spree to take down the solo laner. And the Scorpions firing on all cylinders there. They take down 2, they make the space, and they'll find the gold Fury as well.
No crazy analysis there, Frog. A step forward from Promise. You get locked down by 4 members of the Scorpions. RelentlessOne playing excellent space creator. I mean, playing Agni just like a warrior there. You saw RelentlessOne dashing straight to the backline, and it is so tanky with that breastplate finished off now. Between the stuns available through the Noxious Fumes and just the general tankiness of this build that RelentlessOne has gone down, was able to separate 3 members of the Tyrian Weavers away from the Scorpions, allow them to clean up Promise.
NotGeno under some pressure here and pops the Scarab's Blessing early, but that execute comes through, and that's been a minute since we've seen that interaction. But perhaps that's why you get the Thanatos late in the draft. You get to the late game, that Scarab's Blessing is not going to be as useful in this as a tool.
I think I mean, absolutely, that's the pickup, the execution from the Thanatos. It cuts through that Scarab's Blessing ultimate, right? But late game, thinking about when the Scarab's Blessing is going to be used, right? And who's it's going to be used on. There's really 2 quality targets here. Bayroneri, who's going to pump out tons of damage and doesn't really have any escape tools. And then Migiiiiii, who's going to put themselves in harm's danger in order to do their damage. When you're thinking about Thanatos and who he wants to execute and when you're going to execute, if you're waiting until Scarab's Blessing is being used, until execute threshold is available, it's too late in the fight. Bayroneri's already gotten through a full rotation of abilities. Migiiiii's probably already been in the air and smashed back down. You're executing too late, which means they're already having played all of their cards out of their hand, right? The Scorpions have dished out all of the damage, and the Tyrian Weavers will likely be on the back foot by that point, which means Layers is just going to be cleaning up consolation kills.
I mean, maybe that begs the question, though, about the engage tools on the side of the Tyrian Weavers. If you want to think about using that ultimate early on in the fight, maybe you're leading with the Thanatos ultimate, but I really started to think about these solo laners, right? In the last couple of games, you've had a Raijin, you've had a Shiva, a Morgan Le Fay, all gods I feel like can really get in there. This Baron, though, a little bit of a slower, maybe backline pick that the Weavers might struggle trying to get in there at the forefront of a fight.
I agree. It's going to be the life of the party, but it can only really pull one target, right? Sure, you're sucking in a lot of different targets if Remakami's forward in the fight, that is, but you're only locking down one, truly. And the whole time, I might add, that you're locking down that one target, the rest of the Scorpions are probably going to be focusing Remakami and dishing out damage. Remakami's likely going to have to try to use that ultimate to kick things off, but may pay for it with his life in return. Luckily, Promise has those Dharmic Pillars. We can create tons of space in the fight and be a great engage tool.
Ultimate out from Remakami, and you bring the Living Nightmare over as well. Migiiiiii gets collapsed on the right-hand side. A RelentlessOne. He may be next. A RelentlessOne taken down low, and it's a double kill for InMyZen. The Chernobog coming up big on that rotation. And Dimes, this could be dangerous. A Fire Giant picked up at 16 minutes.
Bayroneri and NotGeno, they have a solid chance here. Scarab's Blessing is online. Bayroneri ultimate available as well.
Got to look for the fight if they want it to secure. If they want that, though. But Bayro, he's almost been left alone, made it through the window there as he drops the ultimate, and a great Scarab's Blessing brings him so far away from the follow-up layers. No blink available, looking for the chase down. The Aegis is good, and he will not get the kill. Layers somehow is chasing down and will lose his life, but he makes the space for the rest of the squad to get the FG.
I have absolutely no idea how Bayro still had that Aegis online. Like, that is crazy. The forethought to know that your support is going to have your back in that situation, to use the Scarab's Blessing and then save the Aegis for that eventual follow-up. Unbelievable there from Bayroneri. Unfortunately, the Aaru Scorpions are going to lose Fire Giant to their opposition. The Tyrian Weavers snag that objective, but good on Geno, good on Bayroneri for buying just enough time to at least scrape something out of that.
Yeah, that is a crazy chase down from Layers too. Like, still, even through the Aegis, you almost get the kill on like single-digit HP at the end there. But I mean, we gotta talk about what comes next. That's a 17, 18-minute Fire Giant on 4 members here. I mean, what are the Weavers looking to get out of that from 4K gold down? Oh my god.
Well, it looks like this right-hand side of the map's going to be the target as InMyZen uses the ultimate on a RelentlessOne. Doesn't have much in the tank here, but could be enough to at least get away. Nope, never mind.
Yeah, he is. He's gone. So that's at least one of the things that they'll be looking for is a pick on a RelentlessOne. They'll grab that tier 1 tower. But I mean, maybe you just use this to get back even. Pyromancer, Gold Fury still on the board, and now they've got a man advantage for another 30 seconds.
I think if you're using this Fire Giant to get back even, you're undervaluing it a little bit. You grab the kill, you grab the Pyromancer. I think if you don't grab at least this Prima Fury or maybe a couple towers for your trouble as well, you're not optimizing, you're not eking every single bit of value from that Fire Giant, which was a little bit risky at 17 minutes. I mean, that is a pretty early on Fire Giant. And now the Tyrian Weavers definitely need to take advantage of this power play for the next 1 second. Well, now it's even, but at the very least, RelentlessOne is going to have to hoof it all the way to the Primal Fury.
NotGeno here first for the Scorpions, and it's Promise answering back with the Dharmic Pillars. That space creation is something you have to be wary of, and the Scorpions maybe a little bit scared to step up through those Dharmic Pillars. And sure enough, both objectives now down after that Fire Giant. You almost think they went the opposite direction. You want the Gold Fury into the Pyromancer, into the Fire Giant eventually. They go the opposite direction, and they get the Fire Giant and then the other 2 objectives. But the Aaru Scorpions still with their eyes on the macro game. They have not fallen out of this gold lead. I mean, they're still 2,000 gold up. They take that tier 1 tower in the mid lane. In fact, they've got 4 towers on the enemy side. I didn't even realize we've let GuyJ farm over there on the left-hand side. The tier 2 tower in the dual lane has already fallen for the Scorpions. So, I mean, even as early on as we are in this game, there are already some of these space creation, you know, some of the safety bastions that you're looking for in these towers is now every tier 1 tower down across the map.
Tyrian Weavers might want to step up into a tier 2 here. Early Fire Giant. I mean, you look at the level leads. GuyJ had created a nice cushion for themselves over in the duo lane. InMyZen has been using that ultimate to rotate around the map, that Living Nightmare, and as such has been paying for it in gold and experience. Dharmic Pillars dropped.
Bayro under pressure and trusts the support again. A great Scarab's Blessing keeps him alive, and they're not even able to hit the tier 2 tower quite yet. But look at Migiiiiii. He's so far away from this fight. He won't be here to participate if they try to start the engagement early on. And sure enough, the Weavers back off a little bit. They aren't going to try and push for that tier 2 tower. Now we're thinking about the next Fire Giant. Okay.
InMyZen targeted here from Migiiiiii, opening the ultimate for the CC as well. Slams down on RelentlessOne. RelentlessOne has a ton of lockdown, Frog.
Yeah, he goes down on, I mean, that's really the only place he could land, but now it's RelentlessOne with the dash in. He gets a double stun, but not close enough to follow up is the rest of the Scorpions roster. But still, I mean, thinking about the next Fire Giant, and if I'm the Scorpions still having a little bit of a gold lead, I am definitely stepping up into this one. They need to get that ward vision to get that pit control.
Eyes are going to be super, super important. You got to get some wards, got to get some sentry wards, make sure the Tyrian Weavers aren't placing their own vision, especially thinking about how Migiiiiii wants to operate around this Fire Giant, right? It's not going to be a dash forward. There's no blink available. You're not just going to face shove into the enemy team. Migiiiii's gonna have to wrap around one of the longer routes, snag one of the backliners, take him in the air, and then the Aaru Scorpions can collapse on their opposition. Vision's gonna be hyper critical here for the Tyrian Weavers if they want to keep Migiiiiii off their backs.
I'm taking a look at the builds here, Dimes, and trying to find some interesting things. Looks like Migiiiiii did end up going for that hybrid build. So he's got that mantle to sort of end off the fights. And despite being a level down, I mean, that's so much space creation you have, and all the while layers, he has the full engage, the full damage build, including the Blood Forge. He's looking to get in, get a kill, and maybe even die for it.
I don't mind that. Yeah, I think you kind of set yourself up for a trade. If you're layers, if you're going in and executing with so much lockdown on the side of the Scorps, kind of expect maybe you're not making it out. Layers does end up going the beats. That's good, but you're going to use that for one of the engagement tools.
Whoa.
Kind of a curious Dharmic Pillars there as InMyZen follows up.
The engagement onto Bayro is there,
Wow.
but the Scarab's Blessing is beautiful. Doesn't account for the alternate timeline, though, and maybe you run out of time there. Migiiiiii, though, on the backside, takes one up into the sky, and the follow-up is beautiful. As Promise is the first to fall, the chase is on now for the Scorpions. A double stun for RelentlessOne is NotGeno is there to continue the chase. Trypno separated for the rest of the squad, and now the stun comes through one more time. You get the relic out, you need the sash and the slowdown, but Layers and Bayro into the back line, and he might be the one-man army the team needs to at least slow down a few. As InMyZen able to answer back, and somehow, somehow the Tyrian Weavers are able to fight back into it.
Dude, Layers goes so deep there and buys so much time. Well, first of all, finds one kill, takes out Bayroneri, right? And buys so much time. Remakami too. Just the chase. The Scorpions saw nothing but red. They chased right after the Tyrian Weavers, deep into their jungle, close enough where InMyZen could kind of just walk back at them. And that is a Chernobog. It's got the Fail Knot, got the Deathbringer online, pretty much full slotted here. Baron's Brew just for fun. I mean, InMyZen is doing damage right now, currently topping the charts after that engagement at 15,000 damage. The Tyrian Weavers taking advantage of some sloppy, aggressive play there from the Scorpions.
He's been really one to be getting involved here, really pulling the trigger on that ultimate earlier rather than Scorpions get the Pyromancer, as I thought it would maybe tread a little bit slower, but when they're able to take it down, unfortunately, they'll leave the Runic Bomb there on the floor. Will not be able to pick that one up. I think it may, well, they might get it. It might time out. Bayroneri going for it and will end up putting it in the back pocket. So maybe that's a little bit of extra added secure towards the Fire Giant, a little bit of more push towards one of these Phoenixes. I mean, for the Tyrian Weavers, do you start to get a little bit antsy here around that Fire Giant? You took the first Fire Giant at 16 minutes off of a big fight, and now you've lost all space, it feels like. It's all the Aaru Scorpions that have the space around the subjective. Are you starting to get a little bit antsy around what the engage is going to be?
I think you let the Scorpions have it for now because the Tyrian Weavers have a nice way to get into the fight, right? And that way is almost by Migiiiiii pulling someone into the fight, right? Migiiiiii went this kind of hybrid Stone of Binding, defense-ish build There's a 5v5 here on the right side of the map, Frog. Might be worth paying attention to.
Yeah, Dharmic pillars get dropped, as do the corpses. And Migiiiiii, he's got to ult away, and you burn both safety ultimates, but Layers out of nowhere finds the execute and Trypno onto RelentlessOne. It's disaster for the Scorpions as they lose their solo jungle combo, and Layers with a double kill makes the difference. And he is the raid boss. He gets threes, looking for a quadra onto Layers, and they're pushing down the right-hand side.
Frog, this might just be... Oh, no, it can't be. That's so unfortunate. The Titan's been unleashed, and it's just a moment here before the Tyrian Weavers realize they cannot finish off this game. They are going to finish off a right-side Phoenix, though. Retreat. Yep, there's the pings come out as they realize this game is not over. And the Aaru Scorpions only clinging to a game 3 by their fingertips, and good luck.
Oh my gosh, they can't end because the Titan is out of the base. That's, I mean, you gotta think if they lose this game now, if the Scorpions are able to defend off the next siege, that is such a heartbreaker. But I mean, if you're the Weavers, you're still holding on to a lot of positives off that fight. I'm just not sure that you can really rely on Layers getting a quadra kill in every fight you're gonna win.
Yeah, but you can rely on Promise dropping those Dharmic pillars to kick things off, as this elephant has done every single engagement. I mean, the Dharmic pillars have been dropped very freely in this game number 3, and by golly, it's worked every single time. You slow down the opposition, you make sure they have to dash away. And the Tyrian Weavers have some nasty chase down. InMyZen can drop down from literally anywhere onto the head of a target. Layers can do the same exact thing. Remakami's got slows locked down as well. And the Aaru Scorpions, they just kind of have to run away. I mean, Migiiiiii uses the ultimate as an escape. Execute comes through. A little bit of miscommunication in one of the earlier fights between Bayroneri's alternate timeline and that Scarab's Blessing ultimate. That's going to have to be cleaned up as well. But you just mentioned defense, Frog. And the Aaru Scorpions have it in spades. I mean, Bayroneri alone, with that huge field of corpses, with the corpse explosion, has got a ton of clear potential. And then RelentlessOne backs him up with a flame wave and meteors from the sky. The Aaru Scorpions definitely have the capability to hold a tier 1, or excuse me, a tier 2 tower, even, let alone a Phoenix.
You got Fire Giant on 5. And you feel like you're dominant. You feel like that's a dominant fight win from the Weavers, and they're certainly holding on to the momentum, but we're only 28 minutes in. This isn't EFG quite yet. In fact, they don't even have all 5 here. The junglers over there in the mid lane facing off in a 1v1. It's a 4-1 split if the Weavers want to try and push the tier 2, and I think they do. They're just waiting for the perfect moment. That might be it. Wow. RelentlessOne drop down to half HP, and I think that might be the signal. You put up a soft defense on the left-hand side, but your soul laner has to back. You get a lot of damage onto Promise as well. The ultimates get dropped. Dharmic pillars makes the space. The tier 2 tower in mid will fall. In left will fall. They won't be able to push any further.
You kind of have to let that one go. I mean, obviously the Phoenixes and the Titan are really where you're going to put everything on the line. It's a tier 2 tower. It's at 30 minutes into the game. You expect it to get knocked down off of a Fire Giant. Scorpions are just thinking they're lucky stars. This is not an enhanced Fire Giant. Otherwise, the Tyrian Weavers may be pressing the gas pedal a little bit harder than they are currently. But you split the map like that. You got some crazy good autos from InMyZen. Promise can do anything Promise wants right now. Like literally anything. Promise is so tanky, is so big, has so much utility with that ultimate, and I mean a getaway dash if he really needs it. All Promise has to do, I mean, you saw it, right? Dharmic pillars come down, Geno dashes away, Bayroneri walks away, RelentlessOne dashes away, GuyJ dashes away. The Scorpions have no option. You can't stay in the pillars. You have to leave. That creates enough space. Tower goes down. Strategy's going to be repeated 2 more times on 2 more Phoenixes.
I really like that you were like ability accurate there. You're like, the Agni dashes away, Khepri has a dash, Hachi has a dash, Bear has to walk. Yeah. He doesn't get to dash away, he has to walk away. But no, I mean, you're thinking about this siege if you're the Weavers, and you still have Fire Giant here, but it's, I mean, it's maybe 1 or 2 more waves So if you want to push down this Phoenix, the margins are a bit thin here. You have to be careful if you're going to do a full-on engage. But Promise, not afraid to drop the pillars. You get this corpses in response. And the ultimate comes through from Remakami, but pulls nobody back. Layers on the right-hand side looking to try and finish off that weakened Phoenix over there in the right lane. But it's once again the jungler splitting off from the rest of the fight. And Zen joins Layers, and that Phoenix will fall. The macro play is good. And they'll at least walk away with that bird continuing to be down.
Oh, dude, I love that because there was no danger there, right? You look at Migiiii's build, you know there's not 100-0 potential. So Tyrian Weavers say, we'll pull everyone to this left-hand side. Layers is going to push up the wave, make sure a couple get under Phoenix, strip away some of those backdoor protections, and then we'll send Zen over there using the ultimate because we know Migiiii's going to split off. So InMyZen can target Migiiiii, comes down from the Living Nightmare. A couple auto attacks is all it takes to finish off an already weakened Phoenix. And then the Weavers can just back off. They could have used that as an opportunity to engage on the left-hand side, maybe create a little confusion, but they don't. They just take the Phoenix they already have in their pocket. They back off. They're going to wait for InMyZen's ultimate to come back online. They're in a great spot as far as relics is concerned. We're looking at full buys here. I mean, people are starting to buy power pots likely sooner rather than later. Tyrian Weavers are in a phenomenal position, and a kill here of RelentlessOne could really crack things open.
Promise. We've given him positives for not being afraid to just pull the trigger there, but now you've lost Dharmic Pillars. You don't have it for this fight, and as Fire Giant starts to get low, this is dangerous. It's down low. The ultimate gets dropped, and look at the FG health bar. It's down to 20%. The Scorpions still in the pit and looking for it. They take it away. EFG on 5 for the Scorpions. Migiiiiii will trade his life to make the space for his team to escape, but the Weavers get caught sleeping at the wheels. Feels like they're not all on the same page there.
I mean, you don't have an option there if you're the Scorpions. You have to contest this enhanced Fire Giant. The Tyrian Weavers have already knocked down part of your base. They're knocking on the door to a Game 3 victory. You got to make some kind of play. Migiiii's more than happy to be the sacrificial lamb in that situation, right? Snag it away. Love the ultimate placement there from Bayroneri. Just catching the edge of it on the Fire Giant, doing damage. Finish it off by RelentlessOne. Tyrian Weavers, though, still healthy as 5, taking on a 4-man unit here. The Scorpions trying to take a game number 3 defense.
20 seconds before Migiiiiii is back up on the map, and you've got one more wave to push with this man advantage. In fact, it's only half a wave. You only have the archers there as out of render distance, so I'm just wrong, but it's still not going to be enough for the Weavers to push. And now you're just left with the consequences of the actions right there. The Aaru Scorpions step up, they defend EFG so well that they secure it for themselves. And you don't get it onto 5. Migiiiiii has to give away his life, and you know it's not all bad for the Weavers. They still have a Phoenix down. They still have the Runic Bomb in their pocket. They're able to take down both of those other neutral objectives. But now for the first time, perhaps, the reins feel like they're in the hands of the Aaru Scorpions. How does the siege look flipped on the other side?
The siege is okay just because Bayroneri's ultimate, the same thing that provides such a phenomenal defense for the Scorpions, also functions as a space creation tool for aggression, right? So just like how Bayroneri walked into the Fire Giant pit, dropped the ultimate, and the Tyrian Weavers have to get out of dodge, same kind of deal. You drop it onto the Phoenix, and all of a sudden it becomes way harder for the Weavers to dive into the backline of the Scorpions. I mean, the Tyrian Weavers, Trypno could clear wave just fine. The pillars are going to function as an excellent space creation tool. InMyZen's going to be chunking from the backline at this point. I mean, Chernobog is totally online right now. My eyes kind of on Remakami, though. If he can really pull in one solid target, preferably a backliner, maybe catch Migiiiiii out as well, and Tyrian Weavers can pile on, get a kill, maybe even turn it around.
Get the Magi's off of Promise to start the engagement. RelentlessOne burns the stun for that. But with EFG, you burn the backdoor protections off of these birds. You don't have to wait for a wave, but it's nice to have one, and they've got one pushing in on the right-hand side. Stun comes through. Remakami, Aegis gets forced, and the corpse field gets dropped, but the engagement slows down. They're forced to disengage off the corpse field as now another trading of ultimates as NotGeno in execute range and won't get the Scarab's blessing off as Bayroneri now under punishment. GuyJ too far forward and a double kill for Trypno as everything goes awry. Tyrian Weavers now on the chase.
Frogert, 2 members of the Scorpions going to be down for the next 40 seconds. It's going to be even longer for Guy, who's going to be up in 50. Layers chasing down RelentlessOne. Scythe comes out a little off the mark and has to back off now. Could have been one more kill for the way of Layers, who's already sitting pretty at 8, 4, and 5. But I mean, this is a full-on siege here from the Tyrian Weavers, who are looking to knock down the Aaru Scorpions in game number 3 and punch their ticket to the next group.
The Dharmic pillars get dropped, and the corpse field does as well. You got to be cognizant here. Low health bars for all of the Tyrian Weavers. They tried to chase that down. You got to think, if they get one more member, if they're able to take down Bayroneri, perhaps, they're able to just full-on end the game. And that's now 2 times the Weavers have been just like a hair's breadth away from ending this one.
And that time, it's all on the back of the mid laner, right? I feel like I've been calling Bayroneri's number all game long, and there's a reason that Puch gets consistently banned at this level of play. I mean, we've seen it last week's tournament, this week's tournament. This giant field of corpses, and I mean giant, literally put the brakes on the Tyrian Weavers. You saw it come out, and they walked away. They did not wait for it to stop. They did not wait for it to be off cooldown. They walked away. And I mean, the same thing happened under their own Phoenix when the Scorpions were sieging on the right-hand side of the lane. Throw out the Dharmic pillars. Bayroneri answers with that giant ultimate, and all of a sudden it's a stalemate. They're literally staring at each other across from the trenches. And as long as Bayroneri is alive, or Bayroneri has that ultimate, the defense is going to be there, and the Scorpions are going to be able to survive to see the next team fight.
Last couple of Fire Giants, it's been the Weavers with all of the control. It's only the last one, the EFG, where the Scorpions were able to walk into the pit at the end, steal it away. But thus far, it's been the Weavers who have held on to this control as we've gotten to the later stages, even on that defense. It felt like they've controlled the team fights. And so you got to imagine they're still feeling confident in their ability here as the Dharmic pillars get dropped once again to no avail. You get the Pyromancer, but you lose what has been such a crucial ultimate for the Weavers engage. And now both teams, I mean, they're close enough at this point. They're all 6 slotted enough to feel that the next misstep, the next mistake is going to be the one that might seal the game. And at this point, it's Geno that everything gets dropped on, and the execute has to come through, and it does. Layers onto a rampage, but he gets traded down early, and it's a 1-for-1 just to start the fight.
Bayroneri is low, though, and the follow-up's here from Remakami.
They need one more bit of damage, but the alternate timeline is there, and the Aegis is well-timed as well. Bayro finally finds the gray screen, but RelentlessOne on the other side finds the elephant, and Migiiiiii gets another one. Trypno now down for 50+ seconds. A 3 versus 2 here around the red buff. InMyZen getting low. Remakami down to 1 auto away. RelentlessOne and GuyJ finish it off, and it's a deicide onto the Weavers. I don't know if they can end it, but they're gonna try.
Dude, RelentlessOne stunned like 19 people in that fight. The flame waves were on point. The dashes were insane. Migiiiiii out of mana for the last like 40 seconds of that engagement, just kiting and sending out auto attacks. It somehow makes it work. GuyJ, the crucial member here of the Aaru Scorpions, going to be able to siege down this Phoenix with those powerful auto attacks.
Cool. Thought it might have been able to push for the end, but it's a little bit too close to Layers' respawn timer. And look at look at Layers, dude. He's like, no. You make sure that you get back to base. He doesn't want anybody having a freeway in here. Critically, though, it's just a fight, Dimes. They don't get the Fire Giant. They only get that mid Phoenix, and I don't know if that's enough, but they're going to hop on the FG here just with this spacing, right? Still 10+ seconds on InMyZen, 10 seconds on Remakami. Zen can fly in, though. I don't know if this is the right pickup.
This is a good call, dude. Promise is going to be late. Layers is going to be late. This is a bait from the Scorpions. Either you get the Fire Giant or you kill the Weavers.
Scorpions confirm the Fire Giant, and now they have to make it out alive. RelentlessOne onto the stun. And I thought for sure it was going to spark a big fight, but they're able to secure it in all the chaos. And now EFG on 5 instead of 4 for the Scorpions.
Phenomenal call there. They knew Layers was the only one that was really going to be contestable. Promise was coming up late. Sure, Zen could get in the fray as well, but you're kind of just diving into 5 with only a Thanatos as backup. So you have 2 options. You either take the Fire Giant or you wait until Layers comes in, Promise comes in, and then you just turn and burn, take out a couple of members of the Weavers, and straight up win the game. Scorpions with a great call, grab the Enhanced Fire Giant, grab a Fury for their trouble, and now they're looking to shove down this left-hand lane and put the finishing touches on this victory.
Taking a look at the relics. You got 45 seconds on the Aegis from RelentlessOne. Everybody else going to have these up for the spawns. 80 seconds as well on the bead, so he's maybe the most susceptible here. But I mean, this one you have 3 full minutes just about with this EFG. You can wait for wave upon wave to find these perfect opportunities. And if I'm the Scorpions, I'm just waiting for somebody to step out of place.
Remakami is stepping forward here. But remember, that is a solo lane Baron Samedi, which means plenty of tankiness and healing in the tank for Remakami. I mean, the Aaru Scorpions, they don't have the kind of sustain that the Weavers do, right? They don't have that healing inherent in their kit. They're going to have to rely on Enhanced Fire Giant healing. GuyJ can use a little bit of the healing from the Devourer's Gauntlets as well, but the Scorpions aren't going to have that repetitive siege potential that the Weavers might.
Look at this Oni Fire Minion in mid as well. That's Migiiiiii, along with that wave just pushing down. I mean, that's so much damage to the Titan, but that's the go button on the left-hand side, and the Phoenix doesn't fall. Somehow, it's let go as InMyZen dives in, and is forced to use the relics. Migiiiii's happy to take the one-on-one, and will force Zen out of the fight as Layers tries to answer back, finds the Scythe onto Bayro. They'll take down the left-hand Phoenix, and health bar is now low. The EFG, they'll use that sustain to stick around.
Shouts to RelentlessOne and maybe a little bit of Bayroneri as well for chunking down Weavers just low enough and stunning out Layers in the backline that the Weavers didn't have a follow-up. There was opportunity there, right? You drop down Migiiiiii a little low, you strip the ultimate and some relics away as well. The Weavers might have had a way in to follow up off of that left side Phoenix engagement, but instead, the Scorpions doing just enough damage where no kill potential really, but it's essentially a TKO, sending the Weavers back to base.
I wonder where the line in the sand is. We've talked so much this set about where you want to lay your hat, where you want to hang your hat. That's actually the saying. And on the right-hand side, I mean, you're Titan low. You're only one more Phoenix left standing. We've had so many. This is the time if you're going to step up. We saw a quadra kill from Layers earlier on in the game, and you have to feel like there's a little bit of pressure on his shoulders to try and step up in these fights.
Is it though? Because the transition to InMyZen, who's been doing crazy damage, and Trypno, who's currently leading the damage charts, it's kind of handed the baton off.
Oh no.
As up into the air goes Layers. What an engagement here from the Scorps.
He's taken up, and the 1v1 is being looked for. Migiiiiii forces Layers out of the fight, and the health bar is now low for the Weavers across the board. Zen makes it into the wall just barely, and will find his way out safely as it's still 5-on-5, but look for the ultimate. Layers in the air looking for the dive down, and immediately gets turned around on Trypno, finds the kill onto GuyJ, but Layers not long for this world as a killing spree now for RelentlessOne, and the Scorps are going to regroup and push again.
Giant kill for the Weavers there. Taking down GuyJ in this Phoenix Siege is going to be a huge moral and practical victory here for the Weavers. You trade out Layers, sure. That's your guy. That's your quadra kill. That's your the heart and soul, the commander of this squad. Layers is going to be up in 50. Guy's going to have to truck it all the way back to the Enhanced Fire Giant, which is going to spawn sooner rather than later. And the Tyrian Weavers, nice base defense there. They're going to have to really, you talking about line in the sand, the line has got to be drawn at this Fire Giant. It cannot go for free to the Scorpions. That would be an in-game nightmare.
You see the pings coming out from the Scorpions. GuyJ still in the gray screen for another 20 seconds. This fire giant will be up on the map before he rejoins the fray. Layers as well, still down. And the vision, the positioning thus far favoring the Weavers, but it looks like they are going to pick it up without their Thanatos in the vicinity, but they've got their Hunter in the wings. So far, just a bait. And you get a little bit of poke out from RelentlessOne. I mean, what do you think starts the fight? If the Weavers are looking for the engage, what do you think starts the fight for them?
Same thing that's been starting the fight all game long, brother. Those pillars coming out from Promise, or a pluck from Geno that might put him in a bad spot.
God, Geno has to use the Scarab's Blessing, and the CC comes through a pick onto the bug, and it's not a good start for the Scorpions. They lose out on their support, and then they still pick up the Fire Giant. I don't know if this is the right play. They've got the pressure breathing down their necks, though, and Zen, he flies in. The ultimate down now from the Chernobog. He's been poked to about half HP. It'll be 50 seconds before you can have the Scarab back in the fray.
I mean, the Tyrian Weavers use so much to kill Geno, though. They're almost on the back foot, even though they have a man advantage, as the Scorpions start the Fire Giant again.
Well, Layers is in the base. They're looking for the secure. They've got it. The Scorpions take the EFG, and the Fire Minions pushing into the base. Layers had to back, so it was a 4v4 on the engagement, and the Weavers just didn't know where they wanted to engage. The Scorpions, despite losing a man, still get the EFG.
Unbelievable there. That, I mean, the Tyrian Weavers, sure, man advantage, no way the Scorpions are going to start it. Well, they do start it. The Weavers know they're starting it. They're right there. You've got to step forward. It is 47 minutes in a game number 3 for your shot at Worlds. If you were going to put your stake down, like, that was it, where you either go in or you try to chase them out. There's 4 of them. There's 5 of you. But then on the other side of the coin, the Tyrian Weavers used everything. Right? You saw Layers and InMyZen both go up into the air after the kill onto Geno. Didn't find anything for it, right? There was no crash down from those 2 members of the Weavers. So you didn't really have anything left in the tank for the Weavers to engage upon. The Scorpions confirm the Fire Giant. They grab a Fury. They grab the Pyro. They've got a Runic Bomb. They've got 1 Phoenix down. It's about to come back up. A weakened Phoenix on the left-hand side. And man, all I can hear is your voice echoing in my head. If the Tyrian Weavers lose this game because of the Titan they couldn't kill, that is going to be sickening for the Spiders.
You have to, that's in the back of their head. You have to think about the mental component of a game that goes this long. 50 minutes is the timer that we're nearing at this point. And thus far, the Scorpions, I mean, they haven't been able to really find success on the siege. And maybe they've left 3 in the mid lane here. And Bayro, he's under pressure, but the ultimate doesn't hit the executed Layers. He gives his life away. He's taken down in the mid lane. Remakami now under pressure. The damage is enough. Migiiiiii on a killing spree finds the killing blow. And a 5 versus 3 members strong here for the Scorpions. They've got the way in. They've got a weak Titan, and they're going to Group C.
Unbelievable dub there from the Scorpions. It was a back and forth set, and the Tyrian Weavers sobbing right now, knowing they could literally broke the base of the Scorpions. They walked in only for the Titan to be over in solo lane. They couldn't finish the game. The Scorpions bring it back. They grab Fire Giant. They walk it down mid lane. An excellent engagement there. I mean, on to Bayroneri, the alternate time, Bayroneri's initial life, the alternate timeline life, the Scarab's blessing life. 3 lives for Bayroneri, and it comes out with a Scorpions dub.
Dude, think about, my mind goes to the change recently. Alternate timeline brings you back to 40% HP now instead of 20%. If it had been 20%, Layers gets the kill. He gets the reset on the site. He gets everything, but instead it's not an execute. Thin margins for this one, but the Scorpions, they take game number 3. They push themselves to a spot in Group C. I'll do it for Frog and Dimes on the cast. We'll throw it back to Gordon inbound on the desk.
Thanks so much. And it really, you go back, what, 22-ish minutes, maybe just 20 minutes. The game's over and the Weavers win. Titans aren't there. They can't do that. You change, tweak a couple things at the very end, and game's over. The Weavers win. Instead, we find ourselves here with the Aaru Scorpions not only finding victory, but eliminating the #2 seed from the tournament, giving us a very... there's probably something we should probably talk about this game, but realistically, Valks, Weavers, and then the SOC teams are the 4 that got eliminated. The middle of the pack is what has moved on, and 2 of those teams are going to be going to Worlds, and the Scorpions, they have moved at least to Group C and keep themselves in this game, and it is a hard-fought battle inbound.
Yeah, there is so many things to talk about with this game. I mean, a good call by Frog about the Thanatos execute is 40%. Alternate timeline is 40% when you spawn in, and then you instantly start HP 5ing back up. And it's like these very thin margins across the entire game just change how this game happens and how this game ends. And not clearing out the Titan as you walk down Phoenix. If you clear out the Titan as you walk down, you can actually look for the end on the opposite side of things. The shot calling, I think, of the Scorpions kind of shone through a little bit more than the Weavers. The Weavers seemed a little bit timid with their advantages, and the Aaru Scorpions on the opposite side, if they saw an advantage a lot of the times, they just went for it because they were confident that the advantage was enough for them to have those wins in those scenarios. And at the end of the day, they did end up getting those wins, and the call for going Fire Giant with 4 alive and the enemy has 5, just being able to make a call like that because you know somebody's going to have to back to base to defend the Phoenix. So many good plays all around. This is probably one of my favorite games that we've watched this and last weekend because it was so close, so many close calls back and forth. And really, I want to shout out Bayroneri in this set. I think Bayroneri played probably some of the best Smite we've seen this weekend. I think he played the middle lane very, very well. A lot of his positioning plays were pushing the envelope as much as he could without getting punished for it, but it was very just frustrating to play against. So Bayroneri played a great game. Geno had a lot of really good ultimates also, so shout out those 2.
And it, again, puts us in such a unique position. And it's this game, and you know what? You look at them, slash lines, I mean, they're nothing, nobody's too glamorous, nobody's necessarily too bad either. It was just a lot, as you mentioned, of back and forth between them all, eventually getting to the point that mattered. And that is where we line up with the Scorpions finding the win and moving forward to Group C. So Group A,
wow.
Group B now completely finished. And inbound, the Valkyries, the Valhalla Valkyries, who had not lost like a single set or something like that coming into this, have been eliminated. The Weavers, who were the #2 seed and had a pretty comfy cushion over the next team, which was the Scorpions, also eliminated today. So a crazy start to this Saturday. And that's not even done, right? Because we're going to be starting Group C pretty soon here. And that's where things get interesting. Scorpions, Sages, Wardens, Storm. The 3rd through 6th seed from North America is what has come in. So, as a visual reminder, Group B, what we have now seen finalized, the Scorpions stamp their spot forward. Unfortunately for the Weavers, that means this is the end of the road for them, as well as Oblivion, who are going to instead be knocked out. And it also means, well, that we've got our last team, Scorpions, for Group C to give us the double elim bracket and to show us exactly how that's going to go. So, for everyone who's been watching, again, it's a nice little reset for them, right? Now, it's not the end of the world. You lose one of these next 2, you still have a chance. You're back in a refreshed new life. And so Group C gives you that opportunity. If you can win, though, match 14 or match 15, well, that means you're going to the SWC group stages January 4th. So a lot is on the line. And maybe a few teams that no one expected to be here are going to be showing up. The 2 that were almost, let's say, quote-unquote, the guaranteed teams, right? Aren't guaranteed. And they've shown that. And I think we're in for some interesting Smite the rest of the weekend. Today we're going to get a couple moving forward, not necessarily to group stages, but at least out of their matches. But Wardens, Sages, Scorpions, and Storm, I don't think there's a single one of these that's going to fall flat.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting Group C indeed. And all you need is 2 wins, 2 set wins, and you'll be making your way through. And it starts today. We get to watch at least 2 teams getting their first victory. And then at the end of it, I mean, I don't know. This is just going to be so interesting. But so many things to actually look forward to watch with these next couple games. So we have 2 more sets today. And, I mean, Scorpions, after a game like that, they have to get a mental reset in. Because that is a lot of pressure that you were on for that entire set. I mean, those were 3 like 40-minute sets,
Yeah.
so a lot of stuff that they kind of have to now reset and go for that next one.
I'm really excited to see, actually, honestly, what the Storm are going to do at this point, because they're
Yeah.
the ones that have caught me the most by surprise. So the question is, what is that 6th seed going to do? I know what the first 2 seeds are going to do, and it's not continue
Not
competing.
much.
Yeah, they're going to be done. We're going to be kicking off Group C, continuing on this double elim as we try to whittle down to the last 2 teams. But all of that is going to be right after this.
Small city thinking, I get why you left. Small-minded people sure know how to drink. I came to the party, I laughed at the jokes you made. I wish that I hadn't, 'cause now the joke's on me. I didn't come here just so I could watch you make a mess. I didn't come here to ugly cry in my favorite dress. So what were you thinking then when you kissed your lips? Now I'm kinda glad you did, 'cause now you